Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Age Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday morning live stream. First and foremost, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to any and all. Of course, the next 2 hours of this live stream will be conducted answering any and all fantasy football questions. As we know, today there are two games. First and foremost, the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thereafter, we have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Houston Texans. So I wanted to go ahead, get on early in the morning, answer these questions in order to set ourselves up for success. Now, of course, there are some interesting events taking on this morning besides, opening presents, all this kind of jazz, and having, happy holiday. Unfortunately, if you guys have a Yahoo fantasy team, waivers didn't run last night, and it is absolute chaos. The internet is completely melting down. But either way, we're answering any and all questions. If you have a question regarding how to handle that for your league, I have the exact proper way to approaching it. But either way, the rankings that you see right here are rankings as of this morning. Now, again, just keep in mind, these are preliminary rankings. These rankings will change over the course of this given week based on the information that is kind of given to the world. Whether it's injury reports, whether it's the status of someone like James Conner who sits there with a questionable tag, we'll have to wait and see. Understand that I had to conduct all of the rankings and all the research that I typically conduct on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on Tuesday. Okay, so I was up till 4 a.m. cranking out these rankings. They will change prior to this upcoming Thursday or potentially the Saturday or Sunday games or even a Monday game. So just keep that in mind. These are preliminary rankings primarily used in order to help us set our lineups going into today's matchups. And of course, in the same vein, probably tomorrow's matchups. But as for Saturday and Sunday's events, hopefully they're not hopefully, but hopefully you'll swing by around for those live streams because certainly the rankings will change variably. Either way, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Let's get into answering questions. If you guys are going to send in a question, whether it is via live stream chat and or super chat, make sure you include your scoring format, whether it is a standard, half PPR, full PPR, whichever way you want to go about sending in that question, as long as you send in the proper context as to the question. That's all I ask. Thank you very much. Okay. And also, for those of you who are members of the Patreon, the rankings were posted earlier this morning. Let me just confirm that is in fact the case. They were posted earlier this morning, about 4 hours ago. So at 4 a.m., I posted those rankings via the Excel sheet, so you can check that out. Thank you very much. Okay. Shung Bull starts off the day with the first question. Says, in a full PPR, do I play Charbonnet or Juwan Jennings? Now, again, this is a question that is going to be determined as we progress over the course of this week. Specifically, by tomorrow, we should have a clear indication as to whether or not Kenneth Walker is available. If Kenneth Walker is not active this week, as you guys can see on screen, I have him as a top 12 ranked running back. He will function in that capacity and should be the start if Kenneth Walker is inactive. In the event in which Kenneth Walker does end up playing, then at that point, I would suggest that you play Juwan Jennings. Thank you very much, Shung. I appreciate it. Happy holidays. Lucius Verenius, 44, sends in a question. Says, sit one of the following: Shakir, Worthy, or Thielen? Interestingly enough, I would probably sit between the three of them. Regardless of knowing your format, I would probably sit Shakir out of the three. So Xavier Worthy, considering the volume of target opportunity this man has been exposed to over the course of the last 2 weeks, 11 targets each game, additionally getting himself rushing utilization, the opportunity share is very, very unique for his case. I would prefer to play Worthy alongside of Thielen there. Thielen last time out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in week 12 or 13. Went for 10 targets, 9 catches. Should have had 2 receiving touchdowns. Obviously had a monster performance of over 18 fantasy points. So I would assume very similar production. So Thielen and Worthy are my 2 suggestions there. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Rob Torrey. Rob, thank you. Says PPR, I need one out of Pickens, Ford, or Jennings. I will play Pickens there very comfortably of the 3. Thank you. Again, Pickens expected to be at a full capacity, practice all week. The expectation is that he should be ready to go. The secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs over the course of the last 5 weeks here have struggled mightily. I would assume that Pickens gets himself a huge boost of potential opportunity share with Russell Wilson certainly in need of him. Thank you. Okay, let's continue on. We had Joey Boy who sends in a question. Says, half PPR, Reed, Spears, Kraft, Chigozimo, Okonkwo. Okay, so between Reed and Spears, I think it's 100% going to be dependent on the status of Pollard. If we're going to be in a situation in which Pollard is out, it's no question that Spears has to play. And even, okay, so that's first and foremost. In the event in which we get a game in which Pollard's active, he has full practices over the course of this week, at that point, I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable rolling with Reed. To answer your other question, Chigozimo, Okonkwo, or Tucker Kraft, as it currently stands, Chigozimo, Okonkwo would be the preferred. regardless of whether it is a half PPR or full PPR. Now, I do remember while the intro music was rolling this morning, many people had asked, what are we doing with Chigoziem Okonkwo? Again, you will see the rankings kind of filter up here. I am playing him and Schultz, who again are two tight ends that have gotten themselves a lot of value as of late, specifically Schultz because of the unfortunate injury to Tank Dell, and Chigoziem Okonkwo elevating in value because of the starting position of the quarterback changing in the case of the Tennessee Titans with Mason Rudolph there. Both of their values increased mightily over the course of the last couple weeks here, so obviously those are prioritized over some alternative options being, Tucker Kraft, a Hunter Henry, TJ Hawkinson, Njoku. I wouldn't even wait for Njoku at this point. I just play those kind of options like it is presented right here with Schultz and Chigoziem as top 8 options in a half PPR today. Thank you. Bob France sends in a question, says, do I play Hollywood Brown today or wait to know if Alvin Kamara is healthy? If he isn't, I'd either play Gus Edwards or Zach Ertz. If I was in your position, I would wait. Look, okay, so here's the issue that I have with Hollywood Brown. Even though he had pretty solid utilization this most recent week, he only played 27% of the offensive snaps. Like I mentioned last week, he's still going to be very limited in terms of the overall expansion of usage, considering he is still slowly but surely being exposed to the offense, and considering they most recently played on Saturday, there hasn't been enough days for me to feel confident that he's going to get a huge jump to going from like 27 to 77%. I'd assume that he probably plays like 40% of the snaps today, which doesn't bode well for his overall potential for upside. So if I was in your position, I would wait. And best case scenario, Kamara somehow plays and you fire him up. Worst case scenario, you're firing up Gus Edwards, who I believe in the absence of J.K. Dobbins is a top 20 running back going into the given week based on the matchup against the New England Patriots. Thank you very much, Bob. Appreciate it. Nick Walker sends in a question, says, is Fairbairn a better play over Reichard? I would not say so. I'd say that Reichard's overall potential for upside is a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more stable at this current moment. Again, if the offense forward, the Texans are going to stall out at the, and allow him to kick 3 50-yard field goals, by all means, he's going to be a fantastic play. But as it currently stands, I would potentially, at this point, have Reichard as my number 2, Fairbairn as my number 4. Reichard would be the preferred of the two. Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate it. Tex Raider sends in a question, says, just wanted to say thanks for the great season. Thank you very much, Tex. Appreciate it. All right, really quickly before we continue on, I see that Connor has sent in a question. Connor had not attached anything to it. Hopefully you typed in the chat, Connor. Connor, if you could do me a favor, there wasn't anything attached to your question originally. If you could type that in the live chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Again, for those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Yes, this is a very interesting morning. I mentioned earlier that Yahoo Fantasy did not process waivers, at least in a majority of my leagues, or any of my leagues. I have not seen it process. Now, if it's going to process in the next coming hours, fantastic. It did process. God bless. You know what's funny? I had to come online and actually mention it for it to be processed properly, which, again, we'll take. I have to now go check all my leagues because if these waivers did not process properly, and not properly, but at least if they didn't process in the form in which I needed them to, that's going to be an issue. Okay. Wow, I got completely cooked on waivers. All right, well, we'll see what happens. All right, anyway, continuing on. Damn, I got cooked. I'm going to have to really scramble in one of these leagues. What's good, Santa? Nothing much, man. I'm trying to deliver victories this year. That's the deal this morning. Thank you. All right, so let's see if Connor typed in his question. Connor says, sorry, sent above. Standard league, 10 teams. Okay, very well. Says, I need a wide receiver and a flex between Pickens, Neighbors, Tracy, and Garendo. In a standard league where you get 0 points per reception, as of right now, I'd have to play Pickens there, probably alongside of Tracy, assuming he plays. In the event in which Tracy's inactive, at that point, I'd play Neighbors alongside of him. So Pickens, Tracy, otherwise Pickens, Neighbors. Thank you. Appreciate it, Connor. All right, let's see. We had another question sent in from Bob France as a follow-up. Says, also, do I play Reichard or Tucker this week? Between the two of them, I prefer to play Will Reichard. Thank you. Nick Walker sends in a follow-up. Says, Pollard or Spears in a full PPR? Purely going to be dependent on once we get to Friday. Once we get to Friday, we'll have a pretty clear indication as to which of the two is healthy. Specifically, in the case of Pollard, if in fact he is healthy, he would be the preferred. Again, the only reason that Spears has gotten himself a greater workload of opportunity as of the last couple of weeks has been the game scripts and additionally the injuries to Pollard. If Pollard is at a full capacity in terms of practice, and additionally they're taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, the expectation would be that it's not going to be a blowout and it's not going to be a game in which Spears has to play the entirety of the second half in order for them to come back from a deficit of 30 plus points. So again, that is a question that'll be answered prior to Sunday morning's kickoff, which again, be patient with it. As of right now, we don't need to have the answer per se, but it'll be dependent on Pollard's status. Thank you. Brian Camacho sends in a question. Brian says, Schultz or Travis Kelce for the chip? Yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, Travis Kelce with Noah Gray has been quite underwhelming over the course of the last 5 weeks here. So between the two of them, I would prefer to play Dalton Schultz in this scenario. Thank you. Let's hear. Chris Bellato sends in a question. Says start 4 out of 5 in a full PPR. We have Sutton, Pickens, Bucky, Tyreek, and T. Higgins. Cool. Of those available options, Pickens is the odd man out. Oh, actually, let me see. It's a full PPR, correct? Let me see if that changes anything in terms of Sutton and Pickens' status. Between the two of them, I have them ranked back-to-back in a full PPR, but I do have Cortland Sutton as the preferred. Otherwise, the for sure answer is like I'm going to play Bucky Irving, Tyreek Hill, and T. Higgins. Those are the 3 that are must plays in my opinion. Then it's just between Sutton and Pickens. Between the two of them, I do have Sutton as a higher ranked. But if you want to play Pickens today, again, they're back-to-back ranked within my rankings. So the overall projection point isn't significantly separating the two. So really, it's kind of a toss-up as to which way you want to go. But otherwise, the automatics are Bucky, Tyreek, and T. Thank you. Travis sends in a question. Thank you very much, Travis. Says PPR. I need 2 flex between DK Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, Tyrone Tracy, and Brian Robinson. So, of those available, as it currently stands in a full PPR, depending on what the weather looks like tomorrow night for that Seattle versus Chicago game, if the game isn't like heavy weather to where it's heavy rain, I'd probably go with both of the wide receivers. I'd probably just play both DK Metcalf and Garrett Wilson. In the event in which it is heavy rain, at that point, I'd go Wilson alongside of Brian Robinson in a full PPR. Thank you. Thomas Dabney sends in a question, says Pickens or Sutton. They're both back-to-back. I need the most boom potential. Who do I start? Look, as of right now, I'm still going to lean in the direction of the way that I have it set. So in a full PPR, I currently have it as Sutton. In a half PPR, I currently have it as Sutton. Do I prefer the idea of playing Pickens? I don't mind it. As it currently stands, the way that I have it projected out, there's a potential in which very easily either of the two could be a better option. It's just purely going to be a matter of who finds themselves in the end zone. That is the missing variable that oftentimes is the determining factor. Over the course of the season, obviously both have been really solid in terms of that kind of share. But between the two of them, as it currently stands, I do prefer Sutton. If you want to play Pickens because you have a good feeling against Kansas City Chiefs today, I don't have an issue with that. But again, I do prefer Pickens. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Surly W sends in a question. Nothing attached to it. Let me see if I can find it in the live chat, though. All right, Surly in the chat says the following. In a full PPR, flex Metcalf, Garrett Wilson, or Hubbard. Let me see where I have Hubbard ranked in comparison to the 2 receivers, and I will let you know right away. So, as it currently stands, I have Hubbard ranked higher than both of them. So, I would suggest that you play Hubbard in this scenario this week. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, continuing on, we had a question that came in from Hernan Ramos, says, hello, 2 questions. Question 1, I have Adams, Wilson, Sutton, JSN, London, and Neighbors. I need 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Cool. Of those available, the best players that you have on your team between those bunch would be Adams, JSN, and Neighbors. Those are the 3 that I would say are your best players and the 3 that I would suggest you play as of this week. Adams, JSN, and Neighbors in the first question. As for your second question, says, I have Connor pick up Madison, Edwards, or Kendre Miller. Of those available, I would most likely lean in the direction of Edwards under the assumption that J.K. Dobbins is not available. In the event in which J.K. Dobbins is available this week and is going to play against the New England Patriots, I would then pivot to playing Alexander Madison. But Edwards, Madison, Kendre are the order as it currently stands. Thank you. All right, after that question from Hernan, thank you very much, we have Alex M. who says, I may have missed it, but why is Jennings so low? As of right now, the way that this offense has functioned as of late really has, purely, they've said it. They said it the last couple of weeks. We want to get Deebo Samuel Muller involved, and they've done so. And that has unfortunately ignored a lot of the overall usage that has typically gone in the direction of Jennings. So as of right now, based on my current projection, again, remember, this is a Wednesday ranking. This is a very preliminary ranking that I had to conduct all the overall adjustments for technically for a Sunday on a Tuesday. So again, the rankings will potentially change, but as it currently stands, I have him low because the offense prioritizes him low in comparison to their alternative options, which as of right now would probably get themselves the bulk majority of the workload in comparison, being Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. Thank you. Also, Him, Thielen, Stevenson, or Gus Edwards, full PPR. Of those available options, Thielen is the preferred. Thank you. Thielen will be number 1. Gus Edwards will be number 2 of that group. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Hive sends in a question. Says, I'm in a dilemma on who to start and who not to start. My starting lineup consists of Nix, Henry, Aaron Jones, McLaurin, St. Brown, Kittle, Smith, and Jigba. Bench consists of Sutton and Abdullah. Should I sub anyone? Nope, I wouldn't sub anything. I'd leave it as is. You're good to go. Thank you. Yeah, those are the correct players in my mind. Kyron Williams sends in a question. Says, Tyreek in the Colt or Devontae Adams? As of right now, I prefer to play Devontae Adams. Also, Colts or Raiders defense. As of right now, the rankings are on screen. I would prefer to play the Colts defense as of this week between those two. It says PPR, I'm in a Super Bowl, man. Need the love. Yeah, okay, I got you, man. It says Stafford or Anthony Richardson if Hurts doesn't play. Big dog, yeah. As of right now, between Anthony Richardson and Stafford, in the event that you do not have Jalen Hurts available, which again, I'm assuming Jalen Hurts won't play because of the concussion protocol, I would prefer to play Anthony Richardson there in his absence. Thank you. Alex M had also followed up saying he has Tyron Tracy as well. Yeah, I would still prefer Thielen and Gus Edwards ahead of him. Alex, thank you. All right, let's see here. Lou8304 sends in a question. Lou, thank you very much. Says, unfortunately, couldn't make it past Chuba, Gibbs, and JJ in the semifinals last week. Thanks for the fantastic content, Andrew. Until next year, Merry Christmas. Greetings from Switzerland. Thank you very much, Lou. Yeah, it's unfortunate that you had to go into the buzzsaw of a Chuba Hubbard, Gibbs, JJ lineup, but hey, that's just how it, it's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Thank you. Adam Amar says, below, happy Christmas, birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's hear, Adam. Let's see what you have here. Okay, Adam Amar's question is, in a full PPR start 4, 3 wide receivers and 1 flex between Addison, Myers, Evans, McLaurin, Judy, Coker, Leggett, Quentin Johnston, Mooney, Ridley. Cool. Of those available, Evans, McLaurin, Addison, Myers, or Ridley. It's either Myers or Ridley. Let's see who's the 4th option of the bunch. As it currently stands, it would probably be Ridley. So between the bunch, it would be, Evans, McLaurin, Addison, Ridley. That's the first question answered. As for your second, which does also have James Conner, would you play Tank or ETN if not good to go? In the event in which James Conner is ineligible to play because, again, he is out with injury, then you would play Tank Bigsby in his stead. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Nick Stano sends in a question. Thank you very much, Nick. Says, Jonnu Smith or Xavier Worthy in a half PPR flex? Let me see where I have them ranked. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have Xavier Worthy ranked higher, but I will confirm this right now. All right. Yes, I do have Xavier Worthy ranked higher than Jonnu Smith in a half PPR as it currently stands. So that's the direction I would lean in. Thank you. And then your next question was, then if Kamara plays, would you play him over those two? Well, okay, so here's the situation that you are in. Unfortunately, Xavier Worthy plays today, and Alvin Kamara won't play until theoretically this upcoming Sunday. So you won't know the status of Kamara prior to the decision making of the next 2 hours, in which you have to decide whether or not you're going to start Xavier Worthy. If you want to hold out in the potential of waiting and playing Alvin Kamara, you could do so with keeping Jonnu Smith, who I think is a pretty solid alternative option in the event in which you are pivoting to maybe waiting for Alvin Kamara. I would assume that Kamara doesn't play. Again, I don't see why he would, because ultimately they're not fighting for a playoff position, and he's already gotten his contract extension during the season. There's really not a necessity for him to play outside of just him wanting to. So in this position, I'd say that it's probably in your best interest to roll with Xavier Worthy. But again, if you wanted to, let's say, for example, Alvin Kamara was active, yes, I would prefer him over both Jonnu Smith and Worthy. So if you wanted to wait, see how it transpired over the course of this week in terms of practices, and in worst case scenario, you play Jonnu Smith, I don't think that's a bad approach as it currently stands, considering, again, you do have an alternative option of Jonnu, who is a pretty solid player in his own right. Thank you. Christopher Farmer sends in a question, says, thanks for all the help this season, Andrew. Made the finals despite losing Jalen Hurts last week. If he is out, would you go with Kenny Pickett or Bryce Young? I would prefer to play Bryce Young in the event in which he was out. In a 2-quarterback Superflex league, I have Hurts and Burrow. Yeah, so in the event in which Jalen Hurts doesn't play, I would play Bryce Young. So my only question then is, NFL Week 17, I just want to know the schedule so that perhaps we have an idea as to how we can approach this. So going into this upcoming weekend, the Eagles play at 10 a.m. and so do the Carolina Panthers. So yeah, I would pick up Bryce Young In the event in which, again, he does not end up playing, Jalen Hurts, that is, then you would pivot to playing Bryce Young against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good to go. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Danny Angel, who says, start 2 between Hubbard at Tampa Bay, Jennings, and Neighbors. Cool, yeah, between those 3, I'll take Hubbard, and I will take Neighbors. Thank you. Crazy sends in a question, says, start Mixon tonight or wait for Connor's news. Depends on what your alternative option to Connor is. Even if Connor plays, I prefer to play Mixon ahead of him. So ultimately, it's just a matter of what you want to do in terms of the approach. If you prefer to play Connor outright, even though both of his starting offensive tackles are out for the remainder of the season, you could go about it that way. But as it currently stands, the only information that we currently hold as for Connor is that, yes, he left Sunday's game. He did not return with the injury. Yesterday, in terms of practice designations, he was given an LP, which is limited participation, which is quite promising in comparison to the potential of it being a DNP, which is did not participate. So the fact that he was considered a participating option within practice yesterday is a promising sign, but it's not technically a guarantee that he ends up playing this upcoming, Saturday afternoon again, or Saturday night game against the Los Angeles Rams. So if I was in your position, I would just play Mixon. Again, I think there's a lot of variable risk in the potential of rolling with James Conner. If in fact he doesn't go, if you have to pivot to Michael Carter, I would have regretted not playing Mixon, but that's just my approach. Again, if you want to risk it for the biscuit, you certainly can. But I don't know what the status of James Conner is going to be. Is he going to be at a limited capacity? Is he going to be hobbled by the time we get to Saturday? That is the question that I really just do not have the answer to, and I shouldn't, because again, I'm not James Conner. I don't know how he feels at the moment. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Joey Boy as a follow-up. Says, in a half PPR, pick one between Ford, Ridley, Devontae Smith, and Spears. I think it depends on multiple factors. Again, I would play Spears over all of them if Pollard was out. In the event in which that is not the case, then we move on to probably playing Ridley out of the group. Otherwise, if we're in a situation in which Jalen Hurts is active, I would play Devontae Smith. So again, very much so dependent on multiple factors. And as we progress over the course of this week and we get more information regarding the injury status of some of these players, at that point, I'd be pretty comfortable kind of going with one of these different alternative options based on those circumstances. But keep an eye on it as the week kind of progresses. Thank you. Let's see here. D-Real sends in a question. Says, starting Mahomes, Connor, White, Lamb, Ertz, Adams, Miami defense, Aubrey. Should I start Worthy or Khalil? And Merry Christmas. Wish me luck. Okay, so of your available options, should you play Worthy or Khalil Shakir? I'd prefer to play Xavier Worthy as it currently stands. Outside of that, rest of your lineup looks good to go. Good luck, my man. All right, let's take care of that. Let's move this here. I need to make a couple waiver wire moves myself really quickly, so let's do this. All right, good to go. Okay, continuing on with the next line of questions, we have one that comes in from Daniel Gonzalez, who says, in a full PPR, pick one, Edwards, Kupp, Jerome Ford. Okay, it depends on multiple factors. If we're going to be in a situation in which, theoretically, J.K. Dobbins is inactive, I would play Gus Edwards. In the event in which J.K. Dobbins is back, at that point, I just play Cooper Kupp on Saturday. Thank you. Appreciate it. Moving on to a question from Zachary, who says, sit London for Thielen or start Trace. Okay, first and foremost, sit London for Thielen. Yes, I would. Next question, start Tracy or Gus Edwards, purely dependent on J.K. Dobbins' status. If J.K. Dobbins is inactive for another consecutive week, Gus Edwards is a start. Otherwise, it's the opposite. Thank you. Christopher Farmer sends in a question. Says, Merry Christmas. This is the rest of my roster in a 2-quarterback super flex. PPR, we have Hurts, we have Burrow, we have Gibbs, Jacobs, Ladd, BTJ, Laporta, Chase, Brown, Dicker, and Miami. Yeah, so you're in a pretty good position to succeed, Christopher Farmer. I would say so myself. You're in a really good position to succeed. I'd suggest you pick up Bryce Young and prepare for the potential of Hurts not being available. Thank you. Alonzo Washington sends in a question. Thank you, Alonzo. Says, I need to start 3 wide receivers. I have Flowers, London, Hollywood, Bateman, and Dobbs in a full PPR. Okay, so you got a lot of pretty solid options here available to you. If I was going to suggest starting 3 wide receivers of the available, Flowers, London, and I probably go. I don't know if I want to start 2 Ravens wide receivers. Let me see where I have Bateman in comparison to Dobbs. Okay, so as it currently stands, I would. The current iteration of my rankings has Flowers, London, and Bateman as the 3 highest ranked. If you're okay starting 2 Ravens, then you roll with that. Otherwise, you would go Flowers, London, and Dobbs. Thank you. Rockout sends in a question, says Schultz or Okonkwo, but already got Collins in a PPR. As it currently stands in a full PPR scoring format, I have Okonkwo ranked higher than Schultz. Thank you. Chris sends in a question, says full PPR, pick 2 between Breece Hall, Charbonnet, Mixon, Ford. Thanks. Yeah, of those available in a full PPR scoring format, I would just play Charbonnet alongside of Breece Hall. Thank you. Ace_2nd says, I need 1 flex between Flowers, Tracy, Downs, Hollywood, and Connor in a full PPR. I would just play Flowers today. Also need 1 Charbonnet or Connor. I would play Charbonnet. Again, as it currently stands, I don't want to have to hold my breath and wait for Connor to be an active participant. If we're going to be in a situation in which he's active on Saturday, fantastic, so be it. But as it currently stands, I think the options that you have in terms of Flowers and Charbonnet are such significantly better options in comparison to Tracy, Downs, and Hollywood Brown that it would be a misplay in my mind to roll with potentially waiting for Connor, and in the event in which he doesn't play, having to settle for one of those alternatives. So if I was in your position, I would play Charbonnet and Flowers. Thank you. All right, Easy E in the chat sends in a question, says, I need a quarterback for Allen. Pick up May, Young, or Stafford. As of right now, the highest ranked of those 3 would be Stafford. So in the event in which Allen doesn't play, it would theoretically have to be Stafford. But again, Josh Allen's going to play. So I don't think there's really a question in regarding that. There's no doubt in my mind that he plays. Let's just put it that way. Thank you. Christian Trejo sends in a question. Nothing attached to it, but hopefully you typed it in the live chat. Let's hear Trejo. Let's see if you had something typed in the live chat. All right. Christian Trejo, if you can do me a favor and type that in the live chat when you get a chance. Never mind, I see it. Okay, it says I'm in a tough spot. It says I'm playing for the championship, as we all are, brother. And have Mixon, JT, and Bucky starting. Okay. Also have Charbonnet and Connor on the bench. I want to play Connor over Mixon, but I don't trust he'll play. Okay, so then just wait till tomorrow. This is my suggestion. If I was in your position, I would play Charbonnet ahead of Mixon. So if I was in your position, I would wait till tomorrow. If by today's practice and tomorrow's practice, if we're not given an indication as to the status of Connor, then you play Charbonnet tomorrow afternoon, which I still believe in that case is a better play than Mixon. So you have basically 2 alternative options in comparison to Mixon that, in my opinion, are preferential in the event in which they're at a full active capacity. But again, they are to be determined, which provides a little bit of risk because there's always the possibility, theoretically, that Connor could miss on Saturday and Walker could be active tomorrow. But if I was in your position, I'd be willing to risk it for the biscuit because, again, I do think that they are better plays outright if they're at a full capacity. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Q Verks, who says, is Boswell not on the rankings this week? Yeah, as of right now, Boswell is my number 13 kicker. So besides the top 12 that you see on screen, I have number 13, Boswell, number 14, Justin Tucker, number 15, Tyler Bass, and number 16, Cade York. So I have my top 16 kickers ranked. Boswell's number 13. If you'd like to play him today, I don't have an issue with it. I had other potential kickers projected higher based on how these games are going to go, based on weather, etc. So as it currently stands, again, still not 100% certain on some of these weather events because, again, some of these games aren't taking place until this upcoming Sunday, and the weather could vary. I mean, it has happened in the past where it says it's going to rain on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then by the time you get to Sunday, it is completely cleared up. It's almost as difficult, like I mentioned last week and this week, it's almost as difficult to predict the weather as it is to who's going to score a touchdown. So in this scenario, if you want to play Boswell because, he's been your kicker the whole season, just roll with it. It's fine. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. I need to adjust something really quickly. All right, we're good to go there. Hive sends in a follow-up, says Mahomes or Bo Nix. Yeah, the rankings are on screen, guys. Again, they're right here. I appreciate y'all sending in questions in this regard, in regards to Super Chats. But again, a lot of the questions that are sent in can variably be answered on screen in terms of who I prioritize between like a Bo Nix and Mahomes. I will take Mahomes there. Thank you. Brian sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, I'm starting Jacobs, Chase Brown, BTJ, DJ Moore, Kelsey Thielen in the flex. Okay. Bench has Mooney, McMillan, Tracy Jr., and Schultz. Any changes? As of right now, no. There would be no changes to be made. Both your running backs and those available wide receivers and tight ends are the best available to... Well, technically, actually, I think I would play Schultz over Kelsey. I think that's the only variable change that I would make. Let me check my full PPR in regards to where I have Kelsey in comparison. Yeah, I do have Schultz one spot ahead of him, but ultimately it's just one spot. So honestly, you don't even have to take Kelsey out of there. It's fine by me. But if you were willing to make the risk it for the biscuit play, again, that's how I currently have it projected out. Thank you. Otherwise, I don't really have any issue keeping it as is because the rest of your roster looks fantastic. Thank you. Famous Maker sends in a question, says flex. Half PPR, Worthy, Amari Cooper, Garendo, Kareem Hunt, was that Calvin Austin? Yeah. Can't play Amari Cooper, doesn't get any work. Kareem Hunt in a RB committee situation, not interested. Garendo in a negative game script, not interested. Calvin Austin with George Pickens back may get himself less opportunity share. Therefore, we will lean towards Xavier Worthy. Famous. Thank you. Nick sends in a question, says final question of the year and a half PPR, pick 1 wide receiver and 2 flex options and one to drop from the bench. Okay, cool. Wide receivers are Thielen, Pickens, Myers, Ridley. Running backs are Ford, Hall, and Spears. Okay, so here's my primary suggestion. You only drop the player that, in your opinion, you believe your opponent will not pick up and utilize against you. So you have to figure out, you have to go and look at your opponent's team and think to yourself, okay, which of these 2 positions, running back or wide receiver, is their least kind of needed play? If you can determine that, then at that point, it will give you the answer as to which of these 2 positions, the worst player that you're not utilizing, who is the drop within the given week. Because if you're only playing 1 wide receiver and 2 flex, as it currently stands, I'd play Thielen at that wide receiver. And then within the flex position, I'm probably playing Hall alongside of Pickens. But the issue is Pickens plays today. So in the event in which, so Pickens would play at your wide receiver spot, and then Thielen and Hall would be in your flex. In the event in which Pollard is not available, I would take Thielen out and play Spears with Hall. So as of right now, I would say Ford, Myers, or Ridley are droppable in this sense. Just purely depending on what your opponent won't use against you. Thank you. Jamil Green sends in a question, says Josh or Baker in a full PPR? And do you think if Chiefs win today, the Bills sit Josh Allen second half because the Bills would lock down the number 2 seed? I mean, again, that is a lot of determining situations as to, I don't know. I'm not the coach. We could theoretically summarize it as a potential in which they don't play Josh Allen if he's legitimately hurt. And again, if there's no way for them to potentially catch the Kansas City Chiefs, they would probably, as the division winner, they'd just be comfortable because they're going to get a home game for the playoffs and they'll be fine. But again, for me to predict the potential of them sitting him, I have no clue. All I know is that I'm starting Josh Allen as long as he's active. Thank you. Shining sends in a question, says full PPR, Darnold or Mahomes? Again, as it currently stands, I have Darnold ranked higher. Says if Connor doesn't play, flex Thielen, Marvin Harrison, Ridley, or Madison. Of those available in a full PPR, I would pivot to playing Adam Thielen. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. After Shining, we had Joseph Mai who sends in a question. Joseph, thank you very much. Joseph says in a half PPR, this is my team. Quarterback is Allen. Running backs are Barkley Jones. Wide receivers are Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Puka Nacua. Tight end is Kittle. Kickers Bates and the Colts are my defense. Do I wait for Connor or play JSN? You just play JSN tomorrow. My other pivots are Tracy, Jennings, Pollard. Yeah, as of right now, you play JSN because he's objectively just a better play at this moment. Thank you. Ibrahim sends in a question, says Jalen Warren or Darnell Mooney. Depends on format. Let me check where I have them in a full PPR. As it currently stands, I have Darnell Mooney ranked higher in a full PPR. In a half PPR, let's see where I have it ranked. In a half PPR, I have Jalen Warren ranked ahead of him. So it depends on what your scoring format is. Thank you. All right, let's hear. Black Lagoon sends in a question. Since Happy Holidays, Andrew, standard league, do I start Swift or Jalen Warren? Between the two of them, I would prefer to play Jalen Warren. It says, I'm already starting Steelers, Freiermuth. Got it. Yeah, look, as of the two, I just don't trust that, DeAndre Swift is going to... Well, you know what? Hold on. Let's see here. In a half PPR, what do I have Swift in comparison? So Swift is one spot behind Warren. In the event in which Warren isn't getting the benefit of the additional receptions that he typically does, I'm okay with Swift there. That's fine by me. Let's go with DeAndre Swift. Again, as of right now in a half PPR, because of the receiving workload that Jalen Warren is typically exposed to, he is ranked higher because of the projected reception volume. If we were to eliminate that reception volume, I could potentially see that in a standard format, DeAndre Swift within my model is projected higher. So I'm okay going Swift there. Ultimately, they're back-to-back ranked. It's a matter of how you expect these games to potentially pan out. I don't love DeAndre Swift. I don't really love Jaylen Warren either, especially if I'm not getting if I'm not getting reception points. Both of them are very sketchy plays. But technically in a standard scoring format, I would assume DeAndre Swift could be a solid play. If it was me, I'd just play Jaylen Warren. I'm not even going to risk it. Thank you. But I could justify playing Swift there as of this moment, but I won't do it. Appreciate it. Okay, let's continue on. We had a question from BH, from NH, who says, standard, I need a wide receiver and a flex between Kupp, Keenan Allen, Juwan Jennings, Brian Robinson, McMillan, Gus Edwards. Merry Christmas. Okay, so of those available options, if you need a wide receiver and a flex, as it currently stands in a standard scoring format, 0 points per reception, I would probably lean in the direction of going like Keenan Allen, Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards. Those are your top 3 options. In the event in which J.K. Dobbins is out, I'm probably playing Keenan Allen alongside of Gus Edwards, if there's a confirmation that there is no J.K. Dobbins. Until then, it'll be Keenan Allen and Brian Robinson as my 1-2 combo. Thank you. Ben Sassy sends in a question. Ben says, Bo Nix against the Bengals or Goff versus San Francisco. I will play Goff versus San Francisco there. Thank you. Matty Speck sends in a question. Says, flex McMillan, Pollard, Debo, Reed, or Harris. Purely dependent on many of the overall scenarios that kind of pan out over the course of this week regarding Pollard's status. If we're going to be in a situation in which, again, Pollard is going to be fully healthy, primed, ready to go against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a top-tier matchup, I would play Pollard there. Now, again, if in fact he's inactive, I'd probably just pivot to playing Deebo Samuel in this scenario. Thank you. Nick A sends in a question. Says, forgot to add Tracy to the list for the Super Chat question. All right, Nick, let me go ahead and pivot on back to see what your prior question was. Thank you very much. For those of you who are joining us this morning, welcome, good morning, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Again, we have rankings updated on screen to the right side. They are filtering at the top 36 capacity for running back and wide receiver, top 16 for quarterback and tight end, and top 12 for kicker and defense. Again, these are rankings that were conducted in terms of my overall research on one day in comparison to the full week. Typically, we don't throw rankings up on screen until like a Sunday morning. So again, bear with me. A lot of the rankings are going to change by the time we get to this upcoming Sunday. But hopefully this kind of gives you a parameter as to who you are playing in today's or tomorrow's games. Again, use it for that purpose. If you're looking at these rankings trying to determine who you're playing on Sunday, I can almost 1000% guarantee you, no, I will tell you outright, the rankings are going to change between now and Sunday. So if you're trying to use this for a Sunday player, keep in mind, again, there's still a lot of information that is left in limbo in terms of practice reports, injuries regarding players, etc., that are going to be determining factors as to whether or not we go one way or the other. Thank you. All right, Nick, let's see what your prior question was. So your prior question was you need one wide receiver and 2 flex. And my primary suggestion was to go with Pickens there. And then, of course, going Thielen and Hall. In the event in which Pollard was out, you would go with Hall and Spears. Now, as it currently stands, even with Tracy in the mix, I would prefer my prior suggestion to you. I still stick with that as the go-to. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. All right, To The Max sends in a question. Says, full PPR, tough decisions this week. Okay, very well. Says, I have Bijan Robinson and Achane already starting. Gibbs, Taylor, Chase in 2 flex league. Okay. I also have Kyler with Richardson on waivers. Thanks for the help this year. Yeah, look, as of right now, I don't mind the idea of playing Kyler. The only thing that sketches me out is the potential of having both of his offensive tackles out for the game against that, specific pass rush from the Los Angeles Rams, who have pretty much, terrorized some teams. So that would be my primary concern with Kyler. So I'd lean in the direction of playing Anthony Richardson as of right now. As for the rest of your team, I mean, the fact that you have a Bijan Achane team and a Gibbs Taylor Chase team, I think you're in a pretty good position to succeed to the max. Thank you. Andy Z sends in a question. Says, pick 2 receivers: London, Bateman, Hollywood Brown, Waddle, or Johnston. I'm not playing Johnston. I'm not playing Hollywood Brown. I'm probably not expecting Waddle to play. Therefore, you have to play Bateman today, and you'd play him alongside of London. Even in the event in which Waddle is active, I would probably just stick with London there. So London and Bateman are my 2 as it currently stands. As for your next question, it says, Charbonnet is my flex. Gibbs and Robinson are my starting running backs for context. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's my suggestion as of right now, Andy. Appreciate it. Kadiak sends in a question. Kadiak says the following. Do you prefer Brian Robinson Jr. or Edwards in a full PPR? In a full PPR, Edwards isn't going to get himself any receiving utilization. Brian Robinson theoretically would, so he would still maintain a higher rank. But again, the only reason Edwards sits where he is as it currently stands is because I don't know the status of J.K. Dobbins. I am so confident that if we're going to be in a situation where J.K. Dobbins is inactive, I'd probably move Edwards ahead of Brian Robinson this week. But again, we're still waiting on the confirmation of what the status of J.K. Dobbins was. Obviously limited in yesterday's practice, so we'll keep an eye on that as we progress towards Friday. As for your next question, also, where do we rank Kamara if active? So there's a difference between if active and if healthy. If he's 100% going to be healthy going into the given week, which probably is not going to be the case, but let's say he was, I would probably rank him at like RB 13. I'd put him ahead of Aaron Jones on screen. Thank you. Let's see here. But again, that's under the assumption that he's still not 100% 13 safe, I think, as of right now. Appreciate it. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Jamil Green who says, Kraft or Kincaid in a full PPR? Bills or Seattle defense? As of right now, in a full PPR, I will take Kraft. And for defense, I will take the Bills. Thank you. Peyton Whitaker says, hey, Pookie, Packers or Lions defense? And why Miami so high? Miami plays against the Cleveland Browns, brother. The Cleveland Browns have given up, 15 plus fantasy points in the last 3 weeks here to opposing defenses. DTR is a turnover machine. Expect them to not be able to score very much and expect for a lot of sacks and turnovers over the course of that game. We talked about it on Monday's waiver wire episode. We talked about it last week as a potential pickup in preparation for Week 17. Miami is by far and away the best defense you could possibly start because of the opposing quarterback being someone who cannot complete passes on a consistent basis. There's a reason why Jerry Jeudy had one catch, even though he is having an incredible breakout season. But when you put in someone like DTR in comparison to someone theoretically like Jameis Winston, it lessens the overall offensive upside. As for Packers or Lions, if I had to pick one of the two, let me see where I have them ranked. I'm pretty sure I have them both ranked. Okay, I have them both ranked, but I do have the Packers at 15 and the Detroit Lions at 16 as it currently stands, so I would take the Packers defense between the two of them. Thank you. All right, we had Raider Alex who sends in a question. Says, I'm down 28 in a full PPR. I have Tyreek Hill, Neighbors, London, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall. 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Who do you suggest that I play? In a full PPR, of these available options, my primary suggestion will be like Tyreek Hill under the assumption that Waddle's out alongside of Neighbors as your wide receivers. And then within your flex position, of those available, I probably lean towards playing Breece Hall there. Thank you. All right, after Raider Alex, we had a question that came in from Phil RS, who says, set my lineup in a full PPR. Wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex. We have Jacobs, J-Jet. We have Hall, Ford, Pickens, JSN, Adunze, Spears, Shakir. Tight end is Bowers. Quarterback is Allen. Defense is the Green Bay Packers of the Colts. Cool. So Allen's at quarterback. Bowers is your tight end. Colts are your defense. Then when we progress to playing 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex, your 2 starting running backs. Oops. Of course, my YouTube crashed. Literally, as I'm looking at your team as a full picture, of course it crashes. Hold up. Give me a moment here. Let me go back to let me scroll up and see if your question's still there. Damn it. There it is. Okay. So as for your running backs, Jacobs will play alongside of Hall. As for your wide receivers, Justin Jefferson will play alongside of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then within your flex position of your available options, I am playing Pickens alongside of Spears. In the event in which Pollard is 100% active, I could justify playing Ford alongside of Pickens. We'll determine that as later this week, but that's how I would set it up for right now. Thank you. Carlos M sends in a question. Says Pickens or Aaron Jones in a standard league? I'd rather have Aaron Jones there. Thank you. Dylan sends in a question. Says I need upside due to being down by 19 points in a full PPR. I need a quarterback between Stroud and Young. Let me see where I have them ranked as of right now. Between Stroud and Young, I do prefer Bryce Young as it currently stands. As for your next question, says, let's see here. Then at running back, between Bucky, Chuba Hubbard, and Aaron Jones, between those available options, I prefer to play Bucky Irving and Aaron Jones. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you as well, Dylan. Appreciate it. Pavan sends in a question, says, thanks for everything this year, bro. Q below. Okay, question below. Let's see here. All right, let's see what we have here, Pavan. All right, Pavan's question is, hey, man, 8-team Superflex. Pick 1 flex and 1 OP. What's OP? Is OP like out of position? Is it like a super flex? I'm going to assume that that's your super flex, your OP. Anyway, it says Herbert, Charbonnet, Jennings, Kupp, Pollard. Cool. Herbert, as in Justin Herbert, would be your super flex, and then Charbonnet would be your regular flex as of this week. It says, I can also pick up quarterback like Caleb Williams, Bryce Young may if needed. Nope, you don't need to. I have Chigozimo Okonkwo. Should I pick up Mark Andrews or Schultz instead. Depends on your scoring format. If you're playing in a full PPR, then you just keep it with Chigoziem Okonkwo. If you're playing in a half PPR, I'd be pretty comfortable going Mark Andrews there, but I'm okay with Schultz or Chigoziem. Doesn't matter. As it currently stands in a half PPR, it is Andrews, Schultz, Chigoziem Okonkwo based on touchdown upside. In a full PPR, Chigoziem is higher than the rest. But as of right now, between your super flex and your flex, it should be Justin Herbert and Charbonnet. Thank you, Pavan. Appreciate it. Okay, after Pavan's question, we had Philip Zhang, who says, Andrew, in a half PPR, flex Keenan Allen in possible rain tomorrow. We'll see what the weather looks like. Again, if the weather is going to be a problem based on visual representation at the beginning of that game, then we could theoretically pivot. But otherwise, we'll see how that kind of transpires. Connor on Saturday, or pivot to Jennings on Monday if Connor is out. Thanks. If the weather tomorrow isn't a problem, I would just play Keenan Allen in that scenario. But it also will depend based on the injury report that is represented today and tomorrow by James Conner. If he gets a full practice by either today or tomorrow prior to that Thursday night game, then just wait and just play Conner on Saturday. Cool? Thank you. But otherwise, I would just play Keenan there. Appreciate it. Clint sends in a question. Clint says, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you as well. Says Tua, Stroud, or May. As of those available options, I currently have Tua Tagovailoa ranked the highest. Tua is currently my number 17 quarterback, just outside the top 16 rankings. I currently then, my second best option of the group would be Drake May, and then Stroud is the third option. Thank you. Remy sends in a question. Says, flex Chuba Hubbard, Sutton, Pickens in a full PPR. Let me see where I have Hubbard ranked in comparison to the receivers, and I will let you know right now. Okay, let's see here. Chuba, as it currently stands, Chuba's ranked higher than the bunch. I will take Chuba Hubbard there. Thank you. Bearcat sends in a question. Thank you very much, Bearcat. I don't see anything attached to your question originally, so if you can type that in the live chat. Let me see if you had typed anything in the chat, though. There it is. Says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. Thank you very much. Says, thanks for the content this season. It's been a great year. Charbonnet or Higgins in a full PPR. Your thoughts, brother. Thanks. Yeah, as long as tomorrow, going into the Thursday night game, as long as Kenneth Walker is inactive, you are playing Charbonnet tomorrow night. Thank you. Otherwise, if, of course, Kenneth Walker is active, then the decision is made for you, and you would pivot to playing Higgins. Thank you. Again, we'll get a clearer picture on the matter based on whether or not Kenneth Walker practices today. If, again, for another consecutive day, he is given the DNP designation, did not participate, anticipate a full workload share for Charbonnet, which, of course, makes him a top 12 running back this week. Thank you, Bearcat. Appreciate it. Happy holidays. All right, Phil RS sends in a follow-up. Says, I also have Tracy and McMillan. Phil, let me go back up to your question just to reiterate. Let's see what we had. Yeah, I wouldn't. You have Tracy and McMillan as well. Okay. As of right now in a full PPR, I don't mind the idea of going. So, but like obviously you know that you're playing Allen Bowers in the Colts defense already. Jacobs and Hall would still be your running backs. But I'd be pretty comfortable going with J-Jet and JSN as your wide receivers, as typical, but then going Pickens and McMillan as your flexible options in a full PPR at that point. Thank you for the clarity. Jason sends in a question. All right, Jason says, in a half PPR, I need 3 receivers, 1 running back, and 1 flex. We have Evans, Hill, Jennings, Allen, Reed, Mixon, Spears, and Ford. Okay, so of those available options, 3 wide receivers, I would suggest you play Evans, Hill, and Keenan Allen. As for the 1 running back, I would suggest you play Mixon. As for your 1 singular flex, I would suggest that it most likely ends up being Spears. Thank you. Moving on to Ramblin' Man, who sends in a question. Ramblin', I don't see anything attached to it. Hopefully you did type something in the chat. You did. All right, I see it. It says, so I'm starting Bijan, Henry, Charbonnet, and Sutton. Should I start Pickens today at wide receiver or bank on T. Higgins playing and being impactful? Merry Christmas, man. Yeah, look, as of right now, the injury status of Higgins is still up in the air. He's been given the questionable tag. I don't expect him to miss. I don't expect him to be rendered a non-impactful option based on the fact that they're taking on the Denver Broncos. Again, if a wide receiver was going to be triple teamed or going to see the vast majority of, for example, Patrick Surtain coverage, you would assume that that is going to be someone like Jamar Chase. But again, Jamar Chase also functions out of the slot position about 30% of the time. So there's obviously some opportunities in which he'll avoid Patrick Surtain over the course of this week. But if I was in your position as it currently stands, starting Bijan, Henry, Charbonnet, and Sutton, should I start Pickens today at wide receiver or bank on Higgins playing? So my only confusion as of right now, Ramblin' Man, is, so I would assume based on what you're implying is that you have Bijan, Henry, and Charbonnet as RB1, RB2, and flex. And then Sutton and Higgins are at wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. If you were in a position to where you wanted to play it safe, I have no issue playing Pickens today. And in the worst case scenario happening, let's say somehow, some way, T. Higgins is inactive, then you just throw in Sutton. I'm okay with that potential pivot. I don't think it's necessary because I do expect Higgins to play, but if you want to be safe rather than Sarvi, I think that's a pretty good way to approach it as of this week. So I think your plan of action actually makes sense and actually could be viably accomplished here. Thank you. Sammy sends in a question, says, Merry Christmas, championship round for me. For my full PPR, keep McBride in at tight end or switch to Kraft. I don't fully trust Arizona's play calling. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're ditching Arizona's play calling after this whole season of what in which McBride has been what? I think he's led or he's number 2 amongst all tight ends in terms of total receptions. Again, I wouldn't go as far as ditching him now. You've gone 16 weeks of trusting McBride as you should. Again, he is a top 3 tight end in fantasy land, especially in a full PPR. If I'm not mistaken, he's like tight end 2. Let me see here. Yeah, I think ditching him in this final week is probably not the best plan of action. I think that's more of an emotional decision rather than one that is an actual effective, like promising decision. The guy he's averaging 14.3 fantasy points per game this season and has yet to score a receiving touchdown. Has he scored 2 rushing touchdowns? Yes. But again, when the guy is typically on average getting himself, let's calculate it. Here we go. What is it? 14 games, 92 receptions. He's getting about 7 receptions per game and on average 70 receiving yards. When he's getting about 14 fantasy points per game, 7 receptions, 70 yards, it's kind of hard to pass up on that potential. So I would just 100% play McBride there. Thank you. Demond Smith sends in a question, says, Merry Christmas, bro. In a full PPR, pick 2, Jalen McMillan, Josh Downs, Marvin Harrison Jr. Cool. Of the 3, Marvin Harrison is the one wide receiver that is just barely outside the top 36. I couldn't find another wide receiver that I wanted to have lower than him. I tried to keep him in the top 36, couldn't do it. So as it currently stands, McMillan and Marvin Harrison are my 2 suggestions. I am not interested in playing Josh Downs, as the passing attempt total for the Colts most likely won't be high enough for me to trust either of Josh Downs or Michael Pittman Jr. this week. So Marvin Harrison and McMillan are your starts. Thank you. Gunny sends in a question, says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. In a half PPR, pick 2 to start. McLaurin, Mixon, or Hubbard. As of right now, McLaurin and Hubbard would play. Thank you. Ocho sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, I need 1 flex between Thielen, Spears, and Shakir. Thanks. As of right now, Thielen would be the primary option. In the event in which Pollard is out, then you could pivot to playing Spears. Thank you. Moving on to Deku, who says, Travis Kelce or Chigoziem Okonkwo. Opponent has McBride. As of right now, regardless of scoring format, I'm going Chigoziem Okonkwo this week. Thank you. Gio Ortiz sends in a question. Thank you very much. Gio says, just wanted to say thank you for getting me to the championship in the finals this year. PPR, Superflex, Gus, Gino, or Stafford. As it currently stands, of the 3, Stafford is my number 16, Gino's my number 18, and Russell Wilson is my number 21. So Stafford would be the preferred of the 3 available options. And then it says I have T. Higgins, Mooney, Downs, PPR pick. Okay, so of those available, I'm just playing Stafford as your super flex. You could theoretically play T. Higgins this weekend in the event in which he's ready to go. But that's just kind of the only alternative that I'm looking towards. As for your PPR pick 2 in your next question, says London, Neighbors, Jennings. I will play London and Neighbors as of this week. Merry Christmas, Gio. Thank you. G. Medina sends in a question, says half PPR pick 2 between Amon-Ra, Juwan Jennings, Pickens, Thielen, and McMillan. Of those available, if I'm picking 2, I'm going with Amon-Ra, St. Brown. And let me see where I have Thielen comparatively in a half PPR really quickly. As it currently stands, I do have Thielen the next highest ranked. If you wanted to play Pickens, it wouldn't bother me. Again, as it currently stands coming off of the injury, not as excited as I typically would be, considering, again, normally when Pickens was healthy, he was a top 12 wide receiver option. Again, I'm still expecting a little bit of a slower kind of return to action in his case, in comparison to the alternative of playing Thielen against Tampa Bay, which again, he succeeded mightily against in this most recent performance against them with 9 catches for over 100 and a touchdown. So I'd go with Amon-Ra and Thielen there as of right now. Thank you. Carbon sends in a question. Carbon with a K says the following. Let me see if I can find the question. I've lost it. There it is. Carbon says, in a half PPR, Zay Flowers or Pickens. I prefer to play Zay Flowers there. Opponent has Russ. I have Zay Lamar stack. Yeah, keep the Zay Lamar stack as of right now, Carbon. Thank you. Appreciate it. B Guy sends in a question, says full PPR. I'm starting Josh Jacobs and Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, a wide receiver. I have one more wide receiver spot to fill and my flex, and I have BTJ, Tyreek Hill, JT, and Hubbard. Cool. BTJ is your second wide receiver, and Jonathan Taylor is your flex. At tight end, I have Mark Andrews and Hawkinson. Cool. So yeah, I would suggest playing BTJ, Jonathan Taylor, and Mark Andrews. And congratulations on winning the championship. You have a monster team. Owen still sends in a question. Owen says, wide receiver 2, Higgins, Terry McLaurin, or Neighbors. Between those three options, I will take Terry McLaurin as my starting wide receiver 2. And then as for your next question, says, at tight end, do I play Schultz, Chigoziem Okonkwo, or Njoku in a full PPR? I would play Chigoziem Okonkwo there in a full PPR. Says, I wouldn't trust anyone else. Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. I appreciate the confidence. Peyton Whitaker says, also, I don't think Pickens is quote-unquote limited today. No, I don't expect him to be limited. I expect the overall... Okay, so here's the thing. When you come off of a hamstring injury, I don't expect them to 100% unleash him to where they're throwing the ball 25 times at him, right? So if we were expecting that kind of level of production, that's a completely different conversation. I expect him to go back to being whatever he normally is, which typically is like 7 targets, 8 targets at very best. But also additionally, I could potentially see them with a lesser overall snap share in comparison to the usual. That's my expectation. I expect a lesser snap share than he typically proceeds with. So that's my only expectation. I don't want to go full in on a player coming off of a hamstring. That's my only concern as of right now. D-Rock sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Andrews or Okonkwo? I'd prefer to play Okonkwo there. Merry Christmas. Appreciate it. Moving on to a question from Bacardi, who says, Worthy or Devontae Smith half PPR? As it currently stands, I believe the rankings on screen will demonstrate that I prefer between the two of them, Xavier Worthy, one spot ahead of Devontae Smith. If I got a confirmation that Jalen Hurts was going to play, I'd play Devontae Smith there. But again, considering we won't know that until Sunday and Worthy plays in about an hour, I just play Xavier Worthy as of right now. Bakari, thank you. Peyton Whitaker says, and why do you think Irving had more than White? What? Why do you think Irving had more than White? More touches? I'm confused as to the question in its entirety, Peyton. If you're asking why yeah. So if you could do me a favor, clarify what you're asking in specific, that'd be greatly appreciated because yeah. Otherwise, I'm just answering a question that I could just not answer your proper question because I don't know what you're asking. So reiterate your question or re-rack what you are specifically asking. Don't really hide any of it. Just ask me blunt. Thank you. Carlos M sends in a question. Says, should I start Chuba Hubbard this week over Pickens, DJ Moore, Thielen, or McMillan? Depends on scoring format, brother. As it currently stands, if we're talking about a full PPR, I'd rather play Thielen. I'd rather play DJ Moore. If we're talking about a half PPR, I would say that Chuba Hubbard's ahead of all of them. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question from Jesse G. Says, UD picks, Merry Christmas. As of right now, I haven't put together any UD picks because it's Wednesday. Usually I don't conduct UD picks until technically Thursday. If I was going to put together any picks for today, I mean, I'd probably just rely upon receptions on some of these players. Let me go look at what the numbers look like. Like as of right now, if I was to just put together a slip as it currently stands, like I'd probably take like Nico Collins higher than 5.5 receptions. I'd probably go higher than 4.5 receptions on Actually, I'd probably just take Kelsey at 3.5 receptions just to make it an automatic. But then again, I don't like the multiplier there. So Nico and Kelsey both going higher than their reception total. I think that's relatively fair. Where's Zay Flowers as of right now in terms of his reception total? 4.5. I mean, at 3.5, it's okay. Let me see what the multiplier would end up being there. And then is there like a promotion today? They have a 50% profit boost. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind taking like, okay, let me pop this up on screen just so we're all on the same page as to what the heck I'm doing here. I don't mind this. Like, again, this is just off the cuff as it currently stands. It's nothing crazy as it pertains to the potential of a play. I think it's just starting our studs technically, right? I don't mind taking these players at these reception totals. It's like a 3.29x. So theoretically, if I put 15 on it, it's for 15 for 49. Like, I don't mind that. Again, I'm putting on this little profit boost that I'm sure it's probably available to everybody. But yeah, I don't mind these three. Kelsey's probably a little bit sketchy. If I move it here, theoretically, what do I get? Like what is my multiplier then at that point? 2.59? All right, I don't mind that. I'll take that. 15 for 38, that's fine by me. I don't mind doubling or something xing. Yeah, 2.59x. That's fine by me. Okay. Anyway, continuing on. We continue to a question that comes in from Bakari, who says Ford or McMillan in a PPR. I'd rather play McMillan. Thank you. Ibrahim sends in a question. Says pick 2 in a PPR. Oh no, I don't even know what you're scoring from it as Ibrahim. So you're gonna have to probably reiterate that in a question later on. But either way, McMillan, Myers, Harrison, Rashad White. Of those available, going into this week, if we're talking about like a full PPR, I don't mind going McMillan and Myers. If it's a half PPR, I'd probably go McMillan and Rashad. Thank you. Tony Wick sends in a question. Says full PPR, pick 3. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Thielen, BTJ. Cool. Of those available, AJ Brown, Thielen, and BTJ are my 3 highest ranked. Thank you. Gabe Marriott sends in a question. Says set my lineup: 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex. We have Gibbs, Connor, Dowdle, JSN, Brian Thomas, Worthy, Wilson, Okonkwo, Pat Fryermuth, Kincaid, full PPR. Thanks. Okay. Running back. Okay, so the issue with running back is that we have to wait. So what I mean by we have to wait is you quite literally have to wait until we figure out Connor's status. So you're trying to play Gibbs and Connor. In the event in which Connor's inactive, then you play Gibbs and Dowdle, right? That's just the decision is made for you. As for your 2 wide receivers, it is JSN and Brian Thomas Jr. Blunt. As for your tight end, you're playing Okonkwo. As for your flex, in this current iteration in a full PPR, let me see my full PPR rankings. As it currently stands, it's probably Garrett Wilson against that Buffalo secondary. That's probably the direction I go in. Thank you. Joshua Wilkins sends in a question, says, thanks for all the help. I have Burrow going against Bo Nix. Stick with Burrow or pick up Goff. I'd pick up, I'm sorry, I just stick with Burrow. I don't have an issue with that. If you want to play Goff, I mean, again, they're back-to-back within my rankings, so it's really just up to whether you trust one over the other. Burrow's consistency of 6 consecutive games here of 3 or more passing touchdowns, in my opinion, just keep him as the better of the 2 options. And of course, there's less of a, I mean, technically, with David Montgomery gone, I think Goff's potential for that 3+ touchdowns is just as high. That's why I have him as highly ranked as I do, but I'd stick with Burrow there. I'm fine with that. It says also flexing Connor if out London, Cup, or Pollard. In the event in which Connor is out, in a full PPR, I'll just play Cup there. In a half PPR, I'll play Pollard there. Thank you, Joshua Wilkins. Appreciate it. Moving on to a question from Mista JV, who says, Flowers, Jennings, or DJ Moore, pick 2. Flowers and DJ Moore are my suggestions. Thank you. Prowl sends in a question. It says, lost Kenneth Walker. Should I play Marvin Harrison Jr. or Kamara? If Kamara is active, you play him. Purely. I think that counts for all of us. But again, we don't expect Kamara to play, considering, again, the designation that they settled last week was that the injury was more significant than originally thought. That's why we are anticipating that he most likely will not be available and active this week. Don't anticipate him to be so. Thank you. Wade III sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, Hopkins, Dobbs, Hollywood, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, Wanda Robinson, Coker Booty, or any hidden gems for this week, wide receiver spot. Okay, so of your available options, my highest ranked of the bunch would be Dobbs number 1, Nick Westbrook-Ikine number 2, Wanda Robinson number 3. Those are the 3 highest ranked that I have of the bunch. Thank you. All right, Alan sends in a question. Alan says, is that Alan's question? Let me just make sure I didn't skip any questions really quickly. All right, we took care of those. We took care of that. Boom, 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 boom. I missed one. Okay, so let me go back really quickly, Alan, before I get to your... Actually, let me answer Alan's question really quickly. Alan says, Merry Christmas. It's championship game, full PPR. My 1 running back is Kyron Williams. My RB2 is Pollard, Hunt, or Spears, okay, or Tyron Tracy. Cool. So if Pollard is going to be at a full healthy capacity, we'll just play him out of the group. In the event in which he's inactive, absent, you play Spears. Tight end Hawkinson or Andrews, play Andrews. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Okay, so let me scroll back. I did miss a couple questions. 908 Juan says, Merry Christmas, bro. Another year. Been supporting you for a while. Now I have 2 questions. Number 1, Kyler, Anthony Richardson, Purdy. Between those available, I will take Anthony Richardson. I believe I have him ranked higher than the alternatives as it currently ranked on screen. So I will lean towards Anthony Richardson there. Next question says pick 2 in a full PPR. Flex 1. Okay, so for the flex, excuse me. So pick 2 for the flex. It says, well, no, it says 2 full PPR flex, pick 1. I'm just going to order these players. You have Worthy, DK McMillan, and Brian Robinson Jr., right? Of those available options in a full PPR scoring format, let me see where I have Brian Robinson in comparison to the bunch, and I'll just give you the order of the current flex rankings. As it currently stands, the order in which I would go about it will be McMillan, Worthy, Brian Robinson, DK Metcalf. That's the order in which I approach. Thank you. We had a question from Joseph Romero, who says, in a in a half PPR, pick a tight end. Hawkinson, Schultz, Chigozimo, Conco. As of right now, the rankings are on screen as presented right here. So I have Dalton Schultz as my number 7, Chigozimo Okonkwo as my number 8, and Hawkinson as my number 12. So that's how I would, proceed in regards to half PPR rankings. Schultz would be the highest ranked. Thank you. T. Jones sends in a question. Says Sutton or Aaron Jones in a full PPR. I would prefer to play Aaron Jones there. Next question says lineup is Darnold, Chase Brown, Hubbard, Puka, AJ Brown, McBride, Raiders defense, and Jason Sanders. Yeah, you're good to go. Aaron Jones is the play. Thank you, T. Jones. Daily Pumping sends in a question. Says Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. Says thanks for all the help this year. Fantasy Final, Standard League, pick 1, flex, Tracy Jr., Jerome Ford, Flowers. Thanks. Okay. Tracy Jr., Ford, Flowers. If I'm playing one in a Standard League where I get 0 points per reception, I will probably end up playing one of the 2 running backs. Do I actually want to risk it with one? Yeah, I think I would. In the event of which is a Standard League where you get 0 points per reception, it's probably a Jerome Ford play. Otherwise, if we were talking about a half PPR, again, I don't have standard rankings. I don't play in a Standard League, so I don't rank or even have projections for it. If I was going to suggest one to play in a half PPR, I'd tell you to objectively play Zay Flowers. I think he's actually going to have a really good game today against the Texans defense. But as it currently stands, again, if we're talking about a Standard League, it's probably Jerome Ford out of those available options because, again, nobody's benefiting from reception count. Thank you. Or, yeah, the reception count. Chris All-In sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, start 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. We have Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Jordan Addison, Sutton, Flowers, Kendra Miller, Alexander Madison, Gus Edwards, Devin Singletary, Michael Carter, and Najee Harris. Cool. Of those available, Jefferson and Mike Evans are your starting wide receivers. Within the flex position of those available, it's either Addison or Sutton. As it currently stands, I have Sutton slightly ahead of Addison. And then, it's Flowers that plays. So it's Jefferson, Evans, Flowers as your 2 wide receivers in flex. And then within your running back position, I'm suggesting Gus Edwards and Alexander Madison. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. We took care of Prell, Wade, and Allen. We move on to Matt, who sends in a question. Thank you very much, Matt. It says in a full PPR, pick flex, Judy, Dobbs, Hollywood Brown. I'd pick Dobbs out of the group. Thank you. Football is Life sends in a question. Says, do I start Mixon, Addison, or Allen in a full PPR? Let me see where I have Keenan Allen comparison and Addison comparatively as well. Yeah, no joke. I have both wide receivers ahead of Mixon in a full PPR. I have Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Mixon. That is the order in which I would rank them. So Keenan Allen's my primary suggestion there. Now that's under the assumption that the weather in tomorrow's game is not a problem. If we get to tomorrow night and the weather is a problem, pivot to playing Addison indoors against Green Bay. Thank you. We had a question from Peyton Whitaker as a follow-up. Peyton, hopefully you type it in the live chat. Thank you, Peyton. Let's see here. Peyton says, yeah, I was wondering, why do you think people... Sorry, you said Poopy had more touches than White. You mean Bucky, right? So... so if you're asking me why Bucky Irving is getting more touches than Rachaad White, first and foremost, because Bucky Irving's a starting running back. And then additionally, he's fully healthy now. And additionally, he is the significantly more efficient runner within the offense. He is also the predominantly used running back on early downs, short yardage situations, and goal line situations. And additionally, gets more receiving utilization. So ultimately, as a whole, he is the better running back and he is the starter. So it's pretty simple to see that he's getting himself more touches because he's fully healthy now. Obviously dealing with that lower back and hip injury from a couple weeks ago. So yeah, that's why he got more touches this most recent week and then why he'll continue to have more touches for the remainder of the season. Thank you. Alrighty. So again, for those of you who are joining us on this wonderful morning, good morning. Happy, Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Again, the rankings that are right here on screen are updated as of this morning in regards to week 17. Again, these are Tuesday rankings for this week. Again, like I mentioned earlier, and I will continue to mention, these specific rankings are here for the purposes of, again, understand they're specifically here to answer questions regarding today and tomorrow's games, which again is Kansas City versus the Steelers, Baltimore versus Houston, and of course, the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Bears. Do not use these rankings in order to determine something that is going to take place Saturday or Sunday, because there's still a lot of time between now and then in order to kind of adjust those rankings based on players' injuries. Again, Keep that in mind. Okay, thank you. Somebody asked me, where is Boswell in the rankings? Boswell's my number 13 kicker. Again, so I have my top 16 kickers. 12 are on screen. The ones that are ranked 13 through 16 are Boswell 13, Justin Tucker 14, Tyler Bass 15, and Cade York 16. So I have other kickers also ranked, but as it currently stands, Boswell was just outside of the overall projection rankings in comparison to the alternatives. Again, it's not to say that Boswell has to be sad. I mean, he's a great play. So he's been a great play all season long. It's just purely going to be a matter of, are they going to settle for field goals if they are down later in the game, or are they going to be pushing forward on fourth down? We'll have to wait and see. Respectfully, Andrew, did you forget Boswell? No, I didn't forget Boswell. No, guys. He's literally my number 13th ranked wide tight end. Jesus, my brain is fried. He's my number 13th ranked kicker. That's how I have it on Patreon. I finished the rankings last night. As it currently is projected, he is number 13. If you want to play him, guys, listen. Don't look at my rankings as the gospel. I don't have the answers. I'm not coming from the future with all the answers. But I will tell you, as it currently ranks, that is the way I'm going about it. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. We had another question here. Scrolling down after Peyton, we had Jennifer Sons, who sends in a question. Says, PPR, Mixon, Lamb, Higgins, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Sutton. Pick one wide receiver and one flex. Of those available options in a full PPR, JSN and Higgins are my two highest ranked players. In the event in which something is wrong with Higgins this weekend, you can pivot to Lamb. So otherwise, JSN, Higgins, Lamb are your top three options there. Jennifer, thank you. Chronofied sends in a question. Says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. You got to make two from 1-5 to 7-7 and now into the championship. I'll wait till the weekend for the start of sick questions. Just want to say thank you. Thank you very much, Chronofied. I appreciate that, my man. Reaper13 sends in a question. Says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. Says LL from Patreon. Got it. In two of my leagues, 2 championships on the line. You're the only guy I trust. I'm fading Boswell for Ryland. Okay. Can you explain fading Boswell? Look, the way that I currently have it structured, it's purely based on a couple of metrics. Okay. So we have to understand this. Over the course of a given week, there are some factors and some specific variables that are more valuable than others at the kicker position. So whether it could be potential weather, whether it could be the overall total based on Vegas' projections, whether it be the range at which they are kicking, the accuracy and the effectiveness, and of course, additionally, the tendencies of an offense to go forward on fourth down in comparison to potentially just settling for a field goal. There are many factors and variables that are taken into association and of course into account within a given week. But again, as it currently stands, Boswell just outside of the top 12 rankings, sure. Still at my number 13, still a viable option if you would like to go with it, but I would assume that you probably have an alternative option such as I'd assume that Reichert is probably available considering he's only like rostered in 10% of leagues at most. There are better kickers to play indoors and in better situations. Thank you. We had a question that came in from Soul Train, who says PPR, 1 flex, 1 wide receiver, Garendo, Debo, JMO, and McMillan. If I'm playing 1 flex between, okay, so if I'm going to play 2 of these players, it probably ends up being McMillan and Debo out of this group, Soul Train. Thank you. Okay, we're good to go. Ricardo Rodriguez sends in a question. Says, Camaro wants to play Sunday. If he plays, is he trustworthy for the chip? Yeah, if he plays, he's trustworthy. But again, there's a lot of potential in which he does not play. So hopefully you have an alternative option in the event in which he does not play. But hopefully he does. I mean, again, for the sake of our fantasy teams, as relevant as he has been this season and as impactful as he has been, unfortunately, there are some situations in which, unfortunately, they just choose not to play because of these injuries late in the season. This happens every year. Hopefully this is not one of those scenarios, but again, based on what the team designated last week, based on their comments regarding the injury, it's a lot more serious than originally expected. If that means he's only out for 1 week, great. If that means he's out for another consecutive week here and he's out for our finals, make sure you have an alternative option available to you. It seems as if you do in regards to McMillan and or Debo this upcoming weekend. Of those 2 available options, again, you do have some pretty strong ones. So again, if you would like to go ahead and specifically play one of the 2, I think they're both fantastic options. If I was going to pick one of the 2, based on the recent usage of Debo Samuel, I prefer him. But again, McMillan has been on a hot streak, so I don't blame you for playing him instead. All right, let's see here. Ja'Cory Johnson sends in a question. Says Adam Thielen versus Pickens versus Garendo. As long as it's I think regardless of scoring format, assuming you're not playing in a standard scoring league, I'd play Thielen there in a half or full PPR. Ja'Cory, thank you. Ja'Cory. All right, let's see here. Flo says Reichard proved last week he's must start. I mean, yeah, that's a given, but we'll see how that functions. Okay, we took care of that. We're good to go. Mike King sends in a question. Mike says, I need one defense between the Bills, Raiders, and Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, as of right now, I'd lean towards the Bills. Again, the offense of the Jets is still not at a position to where we can outright trust them to be able to score at a high capacity. I mean, they were rendered to only scoring 9 points this most recent game against the LA Rams defense. I'd assume that the Bills are going to be in a pretty good position to succeed alternatively against them. So as it currently stands, Bills number 1, Seattle number 2, Raiders number 3. That's the way I would go about it. If you still have the Bills from last week, continue to play them this week. Also, Kyler or Anthony Richardson in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. I'd lean towards Anthony Richardson there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Toe Jams sends in a question, says half PPR. Keep riding with Bucky/White train or with Brian Robinson instead of White. Yeah, I would probably pivot. Well, look, here's the thing. I would typically say that if you have both of the Tampa Bay running backs, it's probably in your best interest to start both in order to make sure that you have no leakage. But considering the matchup and the situation, I'd probably play Brian Robinson alongside of Bucky there. Thank you. You said both running backs had terrible games last week? Brian Robinson definitely had a terrible game last week. I would not categorize Rachaad White's game last week to be a terrible one. I think he had a pretty solid game, all things considered, especially with the fumble late in that game. Otherwise, he scores 10 plus fantasy points. Thank you. Rosa says London is low on the rankings. Is it because of injury? It's because of the uncertainty of injury, and additionally because of, quite frankly, the possibility of his usage being just limited because of the matchup against Marshawn Lattimore. Let's see your Eagles or Raiders defense. Again, a reminder, guys. The rankings right here are up to date. Eagles are my number 3. Raiders are my number, I think, 7 or 8 on the screen. So again, if you are looking for half PPR interpositional rankings for my top 36 running backs, they're right here. Top 36 wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, tight ends, top 12 kickers and defenses. Filter on screen. So if you guys are questioning whether you should go one way or the other and specifically want to ask me, instead of asking me first and foremost, these are here to answer it preemptively, so that you don't have to wait here waiting for me to answer said question, because again, there are many of you and one of me. I would love to answer every question individually, but I think that this is a great way to go ahead and, like we've done over the course of the last 3 seasons here, continue to present them on screen so that you can come in, answer your question by yourself via where I have them currently ranked, and then keep it moving. Cool? Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Continuing on. Let's see here. Mahomes or Goff. Again, I have Goff ranked higher on screen. That's the direction that we would go in. Thank you very much. Again, just for the sake of context, guys, just so we're all on the same page. Again, if you're going to ask me a question regarding a player that's not playing today, understand that the rankings could change between now and this upcoming Saturday and or Sunday based on injury reports. If, for example, a top-tier cornerback or multiple secondary members of an offense are going to be missing, that would theoretically jump up a ranking of a wide receiver or a quarterback, or potentially if a linebacker was going to miss and he's primarily playing in the coverage of a tight end, that could potentially adjust something. So again, there are many of rankings that are going to potentially change between now and this upcoming Saturday and Sunday based on injury reports. Again, do not forget it's still Wednesday. So between now and then, there's still a lot of variable change that will take place. Use today's rankings to determine who you are playing, if they are playing in today or tomorrow's games. Again, there are 6 teams in total. Thank you. Okay. We took care of that. Okay, we're good to go there. We're good to go there. Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you. Happy holidays, guys. Appreciate that. Someone said, is Lattimore injured? I don't know. Again, guys, it's Wednesday. I don't know what the status of these players are. You guys are asking me questions that I physically cannot have the answer to because it's just Wednesday morning. Understand, guys, that over the course of a given week, there are 3 days of designated practice, assuming you play on Sunday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday practice hasn't even occurred yet for 90% of the league. So again, if you're asking me about a status of a player's injury, that is unknown until Friday, purely. So if you ask me regarding Connor, if you ask me regarding, London, Lattimore, etc., anybody of that nature, we will not know unless, of course, unless we have a Friday practice designation. Until then, anybody who's playing today or tomorrow, we will have a pretty good idea as to whether or not they are going. Because again, that will already be designated within the pregame actives and inactives that are reported by each individual team. Why don't you like Hawkinson this week? Opportunity share. He's boom or bust, purely. That's what he is. Unfortunately, over the course of this season, that has been his role within the offense. Jefferson and Addison have been the priorities alongside of Aaron Jones. So considering Hawkinson is typically the number 4 receiving option of the offense, unless he's going to score a touchdown or get himself a high volume of target opportunity, typically he's not going to be implicated to being as valuable as a lot of the alternative tight ends who, quite frankly, get more exposure to opportunity within their own respective offenses as it currently stands. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Ibrahim, who says, Rashad White or Jacoby Myers in a full PPR? Let me see where I have it ranked. Again, could change by the time we get to this coming Sunday, but as it currently stands, the way in which I have it ranked is I would prefer to play Jacoby Myers in that circumstance. Thank you. We move on to Archangel, who says, running back Warren, Hunt, flex, Kelsey. Okay, it depends on your scoring format. Archangel, what is your scoring format, brother? If we're playing full PPR, I'll just play Warren there, and I wouldn't even have a question regarding it. And then as for Thielen, Kelsey, and Mooney, I'll take Thielen there in a full PPR if that's the case. Scotty sends in a question, says, start Brian Robinson Jr. or Jerome Ford. I'd prefer to play Brian Robinson. Thank you. Board Action sends in a question, says, Andrew, Natty Daddy here, says, won my paid league. Thanks for the help. And the Patreon, huge thanks for everything this season. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, brother. Thank you for letting me know that you won. I was actually wondering. I was like, where did this guy go? How did he end up doing? So congratulations. That's great to hear. Love to see it. Let's see. Your Alfredo in the chat says, drop Spears for Gus and drop Myers for McMillan in a full PPR. Merry Christmas, my good friend. Yeah, as of right now, I don't mind that idea. Again, I do have them ranked higher. As long as you're picking up those players and you don't expect your opponent to pick them up and utilize them against you, I'm good for it. But unless, in the event in which you were to drop, let's say, for example, Spears, and then Pollard was to go out later this week, which I doubt, but let's say he does, then at that point, I'd be a little bit worried about making that drop comparatively. But as of right now, if there's no J.K. Dobbins, then Gus Edwards would be the preferred, assuming Pollard is active. Freddie, thank you. Let's see here. Where's Archangel? Archangel somewhere in the chat. Let's see here. Arc. He says half PPR. Okay, thank you, Archangel. I appreciate it. So, as it currently stands, within those players in a half PPR, let me see where I have them accordingly ranked. So, I'll still lean towards playing Jaylen Warren because, again, I'm not 100% convinced that Kareem Hunt is going to get every touch within the backfield. I think it'll still be a split. As for Thielen versus Kelsey, which, again, I think is the only contesting factor of those available, I would prefer, as of right now, to play with Thielen there in my lineup. So, Thielen and Warren would be my suggestions. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Cole, who says, McConkey, Flowers, Pickens, full PPR. If I had to play one of the available options, I would play McConkey there. That's the way that I would go about it. Thank you. Victor Cruz says, is Kareem Hunt a good start over Pacheco? I would say so, yes. Again, the usage that they have presented in terms of overall snap share, opportunity share in terms of total touches, red zone utilization, receiving utilization, Kareem Hunt has, quite frankly, just been the preferred of the two. So if they continue to lean in that direction, we'd have nothing else to believe besides they're going to prefer him within the given matchup. Jesus D says, Ladd McConkey, JSN, Bucky Irving, Lamb, start 3. If I'm starting 3 of those options, it's JSN and Bucky for sure. The question then becomes, am I going to play Ladd McConkey or CeeDee Lamb? And the only reason that question would ever be approached would be the potential of CeeDee Lamb's shoulder injury playing a factor within this upcoming weekend. If you're willing to risk it, again, I do believe that Lamb has a higher baseline and higher upside. So I would try to play him, and I would prefer to play him. But again, the possibility of him re-aggravating the shoulder injury, having to leave the game, and then trying to always fight back from the injury could make Ladd a little bit of an easier start in terms of our nerves. But ultimately, if Lamb is active, I would prefer to play him alongside of JSN and Bucky there. Thank you. Kupp or Thielen, full PPR, says Henry. I'd prefer to play Thielen there. Insert says, got a parlay for Christmas games. As of right now, the overall entry that we put together earlier today was Travis Kelce higher than 3.5 receptions, Zay Flowers higher than 3.5 receptions, and Nico Collins higher than 5.5 receptions. Those are the three that I put together. It had like a 50% profit boost on it. Like, it's nothing crazy. I just put it together like off the cuff. Just wanted to throw three players together. Easy peasy, send it. Thank you. It says Okonkwo over Andrews in my tight end slot or Garendo in my flex spot. I would love to play both those tight ends. That's probably the way that I go about it in a half PPR. I don't mind playing both the tight ends there. Alrighty, let's see here. Adil, that's a great question. Thank you. Good one, man. Let's see here. Chris sends in a question, says Charbonnet over Tracy. Absolutely. Yeah. As long as Walker is out, which that is expected to be the case, considering he sustained an injury on Sunday, did not practice yesterday, and likely won't practice today, considering Walker will most likely be out tomorrow, Charbonnet against a top 4 matchup against the Chicago Bears will be a fantastic play in an auto start. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Austin says Bo Nix or Caleb Williams. I have Bo Nix ranked higher. Thank you. Connor or Pickens, as it currently stands, considering we don't know the status of Connor, unless you have an alternative option that is a solidified one that, again, you can trust pivoting to. In the case that Connor doesn't play, you would probably just have to play Pickens today. Let's see here. Landon Ramirez sends in a question, says full PPR, Reed, Laporta, Ford, Hollywood Brown, Debo in my wide receiver / flex. If you were going to play two of these available options, as it currently stands, I'd lean towards Debo and probably Laporta as that combo, or either Debo or Reed. Depends on how we want to go about it. Let me see how I have them ranked in a full PPR. Let's see where I have Reed comparatively. Let's see here. So, yeah, as it stands, I'd probably go with Laporta plus Debo as my combo. But I could justify playing Reed instead of Laporta in that flex position. But again, there's just so much variable inconsistency within the target opportunity share of the receiving options of the Green Bay Packers that it just becomes very difficult to be able to predict who of the bunch is going to get themselves ample opportunity share. So for right now, Debo and Laporta will be the preferred Landon. Thank you. Chris sends in a follow-up, says Schultz over Andrews at tight end. I don't think I ever, I would not play, regardless of whether it is a full PPR or a half PPR, I would prefer to have Mark Andrews ahead of Schultz in both scenarios. So that's how I currently have it in half and full. Andrews over Schultz. Thank you. Abdullah says, thoughts on Hollywood Brown? Again, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. You may have not been around, but I'll go ahead and reiterate it in case anybody didn't hear it. So over the course of this week, again, you have to understand that the last time this team played was on Saturday. So there really hasn't been too many days of practice for them to prepare and get more utilization, potentially to feel more confident regarding Hollywood Brown. The way that this offense has functioned over the course of the season, whether it has been in the integration of Kareem Hunt, the integration of DeAndre Hopkins, and in the reintegration of course, Isaiah Pacheco, they are slow to return players to a ample workload in terms of opportunity share of snaps. Last week, Hollywood Brown only played 27% of the offensive snaps. Was he given a good workload of opportunity in those circumstances? Absolutely. But I still would not expect him to get himself into the 50+% range of snaps, which means he would just inherently get less opportunities of targets within the given week. Now, if he was to make a singular play down the sideline for a touchdown, great, that's fantastic. We'd love to see that. But unfortunately, considering the lack of overall snap share that he will probably be exposed to, in my opinion, based on just the averages that are set along, he probably will see lesser targets than he typically would if this game was conducted on a Sunday, in which he'd have an even greater expansion of time to be able to get himself reintegrated within the offense. So for right now, considering the way that the Chiefs have demonstrated their integration of players coming off of injury, I wouldn't expect him to play much, therefore not get too much workload. So that limits his overall upside. That's just the thought process as it currently stands. Thank you. Carlos M sends in a question. Says standard league, by the way. Okay. Carlos, let me see if I can find your question, my man. All right. Carlos says, my lineup is Bo Nix, Chuba Hubbard, Chase Brown, Scary Terry, St. Brown, Chigoziem Okonkwo, Lutz, Colts defense. My bench consists of the Dolphins, Thielen, Muth, McMillan, Pickens, and DJ Moore. Any changes to make? Okay, so in a standard scoring format, running backs are fantastic. Wide receivers are great. My only question is, who are you starting in your flex position? If you have one available flex spot to play somebody, at this point, I'd probably be very comfortable rolling with someone like Pickens or DJ Moore, but I don't know I don't know what your situation is regarding flex, because you didn't mention anybody in your flex position. Maybe you don't have a flex in your league. That's my only follow-up question to you, Carlos, if you could potentially clarify whether you have a flex, or if you do, who is your current flex? And then as for any changes on quarterback, do I pick up Richardson. As it currently stands in terms of rankings, I have Richardson as my number 10, Bo Nix as my number 12. They're both in my tier 5 of they're both in my tier 5 of quarterback. So their rankings are so relatively close that I could theoretically justify playing Bo Nix ahead of Anthony Richardson. As it currently stands, I do have Richardson projected higher because of the New York Giants matchup. So just depends on really, if you were playing like a 6-point per passing touchdown league, I'd say yes, you play Bo Nix. But if it's a 4-point, just stick with Richardson. The rushing upside is just too valuable to pass up on. Alrighty, so outside of that, the only question I have is who's your flex? Thank you, Carlos. All right, until then, we continue on. We had a question that came in from Josh Howell. Thank you, Josh. Says, in my one quarterback league in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, Goff or Bo Nix for the safer floor? Yeah, it's always going to be Goff there. Thank you. Again, do not forget, guys, Goff has had 2+ passing touchdowns, and that is a floor of production in the matter of 10 of the last, or is it 11 of the last 13 starts or 10 of the last 12? I don't know what the stat is, but it's certainly in that realm in terms of his consistency as of late. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 in the last 13 games. 2 or more passing touchdowns. That is the floor of production with the additional potential for upside, considering they're always trying to embarrass teams. I mean, dude, they're doing plays in which they're faking a fumble, tripping in order to find people open. I mean, again, the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, one of a kind. Truly one of a kind. Wherever he ends up next season in terms of being their head coach, I expect that offense to be far improved. Kelsey today or Okonkwo? As of right now, I'd lean towards Okonkwo regardless of scoring format. Kelsey's opportunity share has just not been enough for me to justify playing him, considering the contributions that Noah Gray has made within the offense. Thank you. Blizz Frank sends in a question. Blizz, let me see if I can find your question in live chat. I think it was attached to your super. Says, Freiermuth or Kincaid? I prefer to play Freiermuth there. Says, should I play Buffalo players if Kansas City wins? Yes, I would assume that they're still going to try to play and win. And says, no Kincaid, question mark. Yeah, Kincaid as of right now, within my tight end projection, is tight end number 17. So just outside of the top 16 rankings, sits at tight end 17 as it currently stands. Thank you. Again, a lot of the overall wide receiver options of the Buffalo Bills are lower because, again, the uncertain status of Josh Allen and the additional fact of the matter that there are so many threats within this offense, whether it be one of their 3 running backs or one of their 5 receivers or one of their 2 tight ends. There are so many threats that it is very similar to Green Bay, in which it is difficult to predict who is going to, on a consistent basis, score outside of the quarterback and the starting running back, unfortunately. But that's just the reality of the situation. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from TM42, who says, what is TM42? Is that a Pokemon thing? Hold up, let me check it out. TM42, let's see here. What is it? I guess it depends on what Pokemon you're playing. It says, oh, okay, there are different TM42s. Really? It changes? I would have thought that it would stay consistent. What is it for Generation 1 Pokemon? Okay, anyway, I'm sidetracked. My ADHD is firing on all cylinders. Anyway, TM42 says, start 3. Mahomes, Richardson, Chase Brown, Achane. Cool. If I'm starting 3 of these options, Chase Brown, Achane, and Mahomes. Those are the 3 that I play. Thank you. Clayton sends in a question. Thank you very much, Clayton. I appreciate it. Let's see if I can find your question in the live chat, brother. Clayton, I don't see anything attached in the live. If you could do me a favor and type it in the live chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Until then, we continue on with Benjamin Todd, who sends in a question. Nothing attached either here. Todd, let's see if you have anything attached. Okay, there it is. He typed in the live chat, says 3 wide receivers in a PPR. Pick one. Pick one, little Christmas elf. Listen, brother, I'm not the Christmas elf. I'm Santa. I'm here to bring championships, okay, brother? That's how this works. Quentin Johnston, Keon Coleman, or Wan'Dale Robinson. Of those 3 options, if I'm playing one of those wide receivers, I'm playing Wan'Dale Robinson. Thank you. We move on to the question that comes in from C-Will1, who says, Flowers, Cup, Pickens, PPR sit 1. If I'm sitting 1, Cup is the one that sits. The other 2 start. Thank you. Himmy sends in a question. Says, I have Achane, Kyron, Collins, T, and London starting. On my bench is Madison, Kendre, Reed, and Spears. Also submitted for Sharps. Okay. Do I keep the starting lineup or change something? In the event in which Charbonnet is starting tomorrow in the absence of Kenneth Walker, he plays ahead of London. That's the way that you would go about it. You'd play him in the flex. Otherwise, everything's good to go. Thank you. We move on to a question that comes in from Keebs, who says, in a half PPR, pick 1, London, Pickens, or Keenan Allen. If I'm picking 1 in a half PPR, again, the rankings are on screen, but just to reiterate, the current iteration of the rankings have Pickens 1, Keenan Allen 2, and London 3. So Pickens will be the suggestion there. Thank you. Mark sends in a question. Says, is Worthy a good start today? I believe so, yes. If I'm not mistaken, I think many people have mentioned it over the course of today's live stream. The Pittsburgh Steelers, their number one cornerback, Joey Porter Jr., is inactive. He is out. Again, that is a huge plus for the receivers of the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a huge plus for Mahomes. But specifically considering Xavier Worthy has been the number one receiving threat of this offense by far and away with 11 targets in each of the last 2 games. He's a fantastic play in my mind. All right, let's see here. I wanted to see if potentially there was a follow-up question sent in from, I was looking for Clayton, right? Clayton. Let's see if Clayton ended up typing anything. Clayton says, Merry Christmas, Andrew. I'm in the chip. Need to work out a couple of things. Tua or Penix? I prefer to play Tua there. Next question. And my wide receiver / flex PPR, Tyreek Hill, Pickens, Devontae Smith, McMillan, and Ford. Cool. If I was, there you go. My YouTube crashed. Classic. Oh my God, man. Of course this happens. Okay. Clayton, let's go back to your question. So if you need a wide receiver and a flex between those available options, I would suggest you playing Tyreek Hill and Pickens. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you, Clayton. Appreciate it. All right. After Clayton's question, we took care of that. We took care of Benjamin. See Will Himmy. All right. We had a question that came in from Christ, who says, or Chris. Yeah, I think it's Christ. Anyway, it says full PPR, tight end premium, need one, flex. Chigoziem Okonkwo, Xavier Worthy, or Tyrone Tracy. Of those 3 available options, tight end premium. Okay, so when you play in a tight end premium, whether it is a half PPR going to a full or a full going to a 1.5, regardless of those 2 scenarios, let me see where I have Okonkwo really quickly. Okonkwo. If we're playing in a situation in which it's a tight end premium, let's say it's a full PPR and you're going from, it is a full PPR. So you're going and you're getting 1.5 points per reception, I'd just play Okonkwo there. Thank you, Chris. 2 for Flinching says 2-part question. All right, 2 for Flinching. Let's see what you have here, brother. All right, 2 for Flinching says half PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. We have A.J. Brown, St. Brown, McLaurin, Jennings, Debo, Jonathan Taylor, Jerome Ford, Tracy, Dobbins, Edwards, and Grando. Cool. So your 2 running backs would be Jonathan Taylor and Gus Edwards. In the event in which J.K. Dobbins plays, I'd probably go like Taylor alongside of in a half PPR. Also depends on Tracy's health. Would I play? Okay, so this is the way that I'm thinking about it. Regardless of who's starting for the Chargers, if Dobbins is active, I'd play Dobbins next to Taylor. If Edwards is active and there's no Dobbins, I'd play Edwards. But both of them play next to Taylor as your starting 2 RBs. As for your wide receivers, it's A.J. Brown and St. Brown and McLaurin's in your flex. Thank you. Your next question is, I have Purdy. Should I drop one for Richardson or Nix? Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to play either of those 2 quarterbacks in comparison. But again, I still think that Purdy is a solid option comparatively. They're relatively close within the rankings. The rushing upside that Richardson presents, though, makes him a very viable player within the bunch. But again, if it's a 4-point per passing touchdown league, the rankings on screen is the way that I'd go about it as it currently stands. It says it's a loser go home game for Nix and Burrow. I think they go all in. Am I overthinking it? Also drop Vikings for Seahawks. I would be willing to drop the Vikings. I don't have an issue there. Again, considering they're playing against the Packers, should be a shootout. But I still think the Vikings defense, regardless of shootouts, are still really solid in terms of pass rush and causing turnovers. So I'm sure they'll do that. Either way, if you want to play Knicks there, I think that's a solid option. 2 for Flinching. Thank you. All right, continuing on. All right, we had Bruh or Breu. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, it says Cup, Charbonnet, if a go, Garendo or Dowdle. Yeah, if Charbonnet is at a full capacity and there's no Kenneth Walker, it's Charbonnet. Otherwise, you play Cup. Thank you. Sales sends in a question. Says, questions in the chat, Superflex League. Okay, Sales, thank you. All right, Sales says, all right, there's many of questions. Says, I have a tough decision to make in a full PPR flex league. One quarterback is is Lamar. My receivers are Chase, JSN, BTJ Jennings, and Garrett Wilson. My backup quarterback is CJ Stroud and Geno Smith. Who do I start? Merry Christmas. I mean, look, Lamar Jackson is your number 1. If you're playing in a super flex league, I'm playing Geno Smith alongside of him. And then as for your wide receivers, Chase, JSN, BTJ are your 3 starting wide receivers. You're good to go. Assuming you have 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. It says in my super flex full PPR, One flex league, yeah. It says I have Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, Spears, Chase, Wilson, BTJJ. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's the way that I'd go about it. You know who to start at running back. It would be Charbonnet. It will probably follow with, most likely having to play Spears next to him. But then your wide receivers are going to be Chase, JSN, BTJ. Kelsey's your tight end. Gino alongside Lamar as your quarterback in Superflex. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question from Giants in Fantasy. Says Mahomes or Herbert? As it currently stands, I have Mahomes one spot ahead of Herbert, so I will take Mahomes there. Thank you. Justin Wall says, what's up, Andrew? Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you all. Says, I need to start 2.5 PPR. Cup, Shakir, McMillan, Spears. Okay, cool. If we're starting 2 of those available options in a half PPR, I would lean in the direction of playing Cup and McMillan. In the event in which Pollard is inactive, I will throw Spears into the mix. Thank you. Says, I'm worried about Cup. Might hose me for a third week. Yeah, if you want to avoid Cup, just play Spears alongside of McMillan there. Thank you. Isaac Espinoza sends in a question. Says, questions in the chat. All right, Isaac, let's see what you have here, brother. Isaac says the following. Says, in a half PPR, set my lineup. Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Thielen, Reed, McMillan, Saquon Jacobs, Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Laporta, Hawkinson, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Scared to start Mixon. I don't blame you for being scared of that. I mean, again, you have Saquon and Jacobs, who are your 2 starting running backs. As for wide receiver, you play Jamar Chase, and you play him alongside of, is it a full PPR that you're playing in? You're playing in a half PPR. It makes it a little bit of a different function here. So the way that I'd go about this, as it currently stands, the way that I have it ranked, I currently have it as, if I was setting your lineup today, I'd have Saquon and Jacobs as my RBs. I'd have DJ Moore and Jamar Chase as my wide receivers. I'd be playing Mixon within the flex position. And of course, within your tight end position, you'd play Laporta. If you were worried about playing Mixon, the best alternative option to that would theoretically be Thielen, technically, which I don't mind. But as it currently stands, I have Mixon about 5 spots ranked higher than him in a half PPR. Thank you. Class of 97 says, pick 2 running backs, Connor, Pollard, Tracy, Spears, JK. So in the event in which, for example, Connor and J.K. Dobbins were both active, those would be the 2 running backs that I'd start. But let's say, for example, neither of them play. At that point, you would play both. Well, yeah, assuming Pollard is also active, at that point, I'd be comfortable rolling with both of the Titans running backs to make sure that I get all of the workload of opportunity kind of encapsulated in order to make sure that I don't have anything leaking. So that's the way that I go about it. So the order at which I would have it ranked is like Connor, J.K., Pollard, Tracy, Spears. But again, if both Connor and J.K. Dobbins are inactive, Pollard and Spears are the way that I go about it in order to make sure that I encapsulate the entire backfield. Thank you. And then your next question was flex Adams, McConkey, or a running back. I would flex Adams there, just straight up. And then it says also Chigazzimo, Okonkwo, or Schultz at tight end. I'd only play Schultz in a standard or half. So yeah, standard half PPR, I play Schultz. Full PPR, I'm playing Chigazzimo, Okonkwo. And then it says Philly or Colts defense. I like both, but I have the Colts 1 spot ahead of Philly as my number 2 and number 3 defenses of the week. Thank you. Football is Life sends in a question. Says follow-up question. Merry Christmas. Thank you, football. All right, Football is Life says Keenan Allen or Addison over Mixon. I don't mind either of the 2 as long as you're playing in a full PPR. It says, so my only replacement is Charbonnet at running back. Spot for Mixon. Is there a chance this Walker still plays and putting in Charbonnet? Well, look, okay, so here's the thing that you have in your favor, Football is Life. Later today, prior to the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Houston Texans, we should see some injury report regarding the Seattle Seahawks practice report as of today. When we get that report, if it's a DNP for Kenneth Walker, then I would 100% say that you are in a great position to avoid playing Mixon today. In the event in which it gets a limited participation in practice, then at that point, I'm saying, all right, you probably just play Mixon and don't even risk it. But if you're playing in a half PPR, Mixon probably be the play. If it's a full PPR, I'm okay pivoting to just playing Keenan Allen on Thursday. If the weather's too much, then you pivot to play Addison on Sunday. Thank you. We Buy Home says, in a non-PPR, start 1 running back, 1 flex, and a kicker. We have Ford, Spears, Pollard, Rashad White, Garendo, Reed, and Smitty. Okay, cool. Of your available options in a non-PPR scoring format, Pollard, assuming he's fully active and ready to go, would be the RB. And the flex would, honestly, the flex might end up just having to be Spears or like Ford in this scenario. I don't mind the idea of just playing both of the Titans running backs in order to make sure we get all the value there, because there is so much value that has been presented over the last couple of days here. So that's probably my suggestion, play both of those running backs. As for kicker, you have Fairbairn, you have Matt Gay, and you have Aubrey. Again, I don't think there's a wrong answer between Fairbairn and Aubrey. I think both of them have obviously demonstrated that they're some of the best kickers in the league. I currently have them both as tier 2 kickers, Fairbairn at number 4 and Aubrey at number 5. The separation of value between the two of them is a separation of 0.3 points. So I don't really have an issue with the potential of playing Aubrey over Fairbairn, but as of right now, it's purely just going to be dependent on weather. So if I look at the weather of this game, if I get to prior to kickoff and it's going to be a problem, okay, they're playing indoors in Houston, so there's no question there. That's why probably I had Fairbairn higher based on my projection model. But where is Dallas playing this week? They're playing in Philly, expected the rain. So yeah, as of right now, I just play Fairbairn, avoid the weather, don't even take the risk on it. Thank you. But obviously, if you want to play Aubrey based on his efforts last week, it wouldn't bug me. And I think Matt Gay is questionable, so that's why I don't even have him ranked. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Reptar Hunter, who sends in a question that says, Flowers, Debo, JMO, Ridley. Okay. Start 2 PPR. Already they have McLaurin. Scared to start Flowers with shoulder strain, but number 1 in targets. I'm not sure what the McLaurin part is. I'm going to assume that that's like McLaurin is already your starting wide receiver. You need a wide receiver 2 and a flex. If you need that to be the case, I'd go with Flowers and Debo Samuel. That's my primary suggestion there, Reptar. Thank you. I understand the potential risk that is implied with the Flowers potential, shoulder situation, but I'm still willing to roll with that. Blizz Frank says, follow up, Cup, Hunt, Bateman in the flex. I would play Cup there. Thank you. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Terry R, who says, in a half PPR, I need 2 Myers, Pickens, Cup, DK Spears, AK-41, which is, of course, Alvin Kamara. All right, so if we are, and Pollard. Okay, cool. So if you need 2.5 PPR, the 2 that I would probably suggest that you roll with are, okay, so if I was in your situation, Terry R, I play Pickens, and I try to play Pollard next to him. In the event in which AK-41 plays, you would play Pickens with Alvin Kamara. In the event in which he misses, let's say Pollard misses, then you play Spears. So really, Pickens plays, and everybody is variably going to be kind of rotated over the course of this week once we get more information. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from Sebastian Alex, who says, I have Jalen Hurts in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. Do I go with Anthony Richardson, Geno, or Stafford? In a 6-point per passing touchdown format, if I was to adjust it accordingly, I'd still play Anthony Richardson there. Thank you. Hive sends in a question, says, why Mahomes over Knicks? Man, if we had to go through an entire compilation of how we've gotten to that situation, there are many factors. The primary factor that really leads me in this direction is the fact that the running game of this Chiefs offense is so inept that it's just purely led to more opportunities in the direction of Mahomes throwing touchdowns as of late, specifically the last 8 weeks here. So between the two of them, really, both can certainly be 2 passing touchdown players. The rushing upside that Mahomes presents on a weekly basis, even though somehow, some way he has a quote-unquote sprained ankle, that it's not even real. He doesn't have a sprained ankle. Otherwise, he has superhuman strength. Other than that, again, when we take everything into consideration, additionally with the matchup, Mahomes is the preferred with all the weapons that he has available to him, the lack of a running game, and his upside of rushing. Chris Montoya sends in a question, says, full PPR, pick 2, Hollywood Brown, Mooney, or Thielen. Of those available, Mooney and Thielen are my 2 highest ranked. Thank you. Reptar sends in a follow-up, says PPR, pick 1, Abdullah, Ford, Madison, Kendre. If I had to pick one of the 4 options, Madison's my number 1. Thank you. Jonathan Del Angel says, could Hollywood Brown have a good game or a big game today? Yeah, everybody could have a big game as long as they make a one singular play that scores a touchdown. Outside of scoring touchdowns, big games are very much so, especially in the case of that situation, very difficult to potentially predict. Okay, we've taken care of that. Big Cat says I skipped his question. Big Cat, did I really? I did skip your question. My apologies. Big Cat says Hollywood Brown or Madison. I would play Madison this week. Thank you. Did I miss that a long time ago? I did. My apologies, Big Cat. Sorry for keeping you waiting this long, Big Cat. My bad. I appreciate it, brother. All right, let's see here. Anthony Pena sends in a question. Says, I'm in the championship. Do I play Sanders or Reichard? I'd prefer to play Reichard. Thank you. Indoors, no questions asked as to the weather. All right, guys. It's 9:50, about 10 minutes away from the kickoff between this game. Again, tomorrow I'll be back here on the channel with wide receiver rankings at a top 36 capacity so we can go even into further detail regarding the wide receiver conversation. I'll be live streaming tomorrow night after the Thursday night football game. I'll also be back on Friday with tight end and quarterback rankings at a full capacity. And then, of course, a Friday night live stream, Saturday morning, considering, again, do not forget, there are 3 Saturday games this upcoming weekend. I will be live at 8 a.m. Saturday morning for a 2-hour live stream answering questions. Additionally, Sunday morning, I will be live starting at 7 a.m. PST. So again, keep that in mind. Thank you. Josh007 says, should I play the Ravens defense? Josh, the rankings are going to pop up on screen. If you don't have any alternative options that are better from my current rankings and Ravens are the best, then yeah, you can play the Ravens. They're pretty solid this week. All right, anyway, moving on. We had a question from John Koziar who says, 12-team PPR, 1 quarterback, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Quarterback is Daniels, tight end is Andrews, wide receivers are Adams and Higgins, McConkey, cool. Running backs are Bijan and Achane, flex Shakir, Downs, or Connor if he plays. In the event that Connor plays, you start him. Otherwise, it's Shakir. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it. Justin says, PPR, do I really go with Chigoziem Okonkwo over Kelsey? And BOS, no rank. Boswell, yeah, Boswell's my number 13. As for Chigoziem Okonkwo over Kelsey, again, the opportunity share and the percentage of overall target share that he has received, 32% in the last 2 games, in the last 60 passing attempts of Mason Rudolph, is so ridiculously high that it is impossible to ignore him when taking on the Jaguars, who are a top-tier matchup, who just allowed, 11 catches, was it? Or was it 9 or 10, 11 catches to a guy like Brock Bowers. Chigoziem Okonkwo is a heavily preferred target of Mason Rudolph, and the opportunity share, I think, is just too valuable to pass up on. Thank you. KJ sends in a question, says, half PPR, running back Barkley, JT, wide receivers Kupp, Thielen, flex is Edwards, okay, cool. I have Bigsby, Jennings, Spears, Dobbs. Do I need to make any changes? Nope. The only time you would ever make a change is if, in fact, in the event in which J.K. Dobbins is active, you would pivot from Edwards to probably playing either Bigsby or Spears. Spears if Pollard is out, Bigsby if he's in, but you still could play Spears depending on how you want to go about it. But that's the only time you'd ever pivot away from Edwards. Patrick sends in a question, says, full PPR, Worthy or Mooney? I'd prefer to play Worthy. Someone said, okay, Pickens or Charbonnet? I'd play Charbonnet. Abe says, so we are assuming Hurts isn't playing. Him going down can cost me the chance at a Super Bowl? Yeah, I mean, we should not assume him to play. Or we should not proceed with the idea that he should be expected to play. Again, the concussion protocol this season, there have only been 2 skill position players, as in quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. There's only been 2 of them over the course of this entire season that have cleared concussion protocol in less than 5 days. Those 2 players being Marvin Harrison Jr. and Tyrone Tracy Jr. No other players this season on the offensive side of the ball as a tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, or running back have cleared concussion protocol within the week. And imagine how many concussions we have seen over the course of the season. So the percentage chance of him returning, relatively low. Expect to have an alternative option available, ready to go there. Okay, let's see here. Hunt or is it okay? So Kelvin, when you say Hunt or Jay Williams, who do you refer Jay Williams as? Is that Jameson Williams or Javonte Williams? If it's Jameson, I play Jameson. If it's Javonte, I play Hunt instead. Thank you. Scott says, hey Andrew, in a full PPR sit one between Nico, BTJ, Amon-Ra, and AJ Brown. Of those available options, AJ Brown is my lowest ranked because I don't expect Hurts to play. Thank you. Arlen sends in a question, says, McMillan, Marvin, Jaden Reed, Debo, Kupp, pick 3 in a full PPR. McMillan, Debo, and Kupp are my 3 highest ranked. Thank you. Let's see here. Start JSN tonight or wait for gamble on Connor. JSN plays tomorrow night, but yes, play JSN tomorrow night. I wouldn't even wait for the gamble. Lamosity says Love or Mahomes. The rankings are on screen. I currently believe I have Mahomes ranked higher. Am I crazy? Mahomes is my number 8 and Love is my number 14. Yeah, let's just play the Mahomes there. Thank you. 2 for Flinching says, did you miss answering my question? No, I answered it. I'm pretty sure I did. I can go ahead and reiterate what my suggestion was. Pick up Knicks, play him. That's fine. And play the Seahawks defense. Thank you. And then for your other question, you had asked about 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. The primary suggestion was, obviously, you're playing A.J. Brown and St. Brown as your wide receivers. You're playing McLaurin in your flex. And then you're playing, Jonathan Taylor with either Dobbs or Edwards, depending on who's the starter for the Chargers this week. Thank you. John says not high on Boswell this week with no Chris Jones. Yeah, look, the Chris Jones factor does not really play an impact in terms of the potential of a kicking game. The reality of the situation is I have Boswell as my number 13. That's how I have it. If you guys want to play Boswell, I'm not telling you not to play him. I'm just telling you what I would do. If I had a choice to rank top 12 kickers as to how I see it potentially playing out, that's how I have it. But Boswell sits at 13. Justin Tucker's at 14. Tyler Bass is at 15. Cade York is at 16, right? Like, I have it structured in a way, and I'm continuing to roll with my current structure. If you want to play Boswell, again, go for it. I don't see why you wouldn't want to. He's been a great kicker all season long. I understand it. My only concern is there are possibilities in which this game gets out of hand and they have to avoid kicking field goals and rather just go for it on fourth down, which again is my issue with him. Lamosity sends in a question, says Harrison, Dobbs, Westbrook, or Stevenson in a half PPR. If I'm playing one of those in a half PPR scoring format, it probably ends up being Ramondre Stevenson. Second best option would be Harrison. Thank you. Charbonnet or Calvin Ridley. Again, if Kenneth Walker is inactive, Charbonnet plays over about 85% of all players. He plays ahead of all of them. Again, I have him ranked as a top 12 running back, not by accident, but because he has earned that in the absence of Kenneth Walker. John Koziar says, Andrew, off topic, best intro music in the industry. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Let's see here. We took care of that. Sean, Mahomes or AR, we'll take Mahomes there. Charbonnet, Tyreek Hill or Connor. Just play Charbonnet tomorrow, assuming assuming Kenneth Walker is out. Otherwise, we could pivot and wait until Connor's status. Ryan says Mixon or Higgins in a PPR. I'd rather play Higgins. PPR flex Charbonnet or Keenan Allen. Again, tomorrow it'll be Charbonnet if Kenneth Walker's out. Flowers or Pickens. I have Flowers ranked higher. Let's see here. Flowers. Okay, we took care of that. Pickens or Allen in a full PPR. I believe I still have Pickens ranked higher, but let me just check. Pickens is there. Yeah, Pickens is my number 21 and Keenan Allen's my number 22 in a full PPR. Again, they're relatively close. I don't mind the idea of playing Keenan Allen, but the weather is my only concern with that, potentially lessening his overall impact. But ultimately, I'm comfortable playing Pickens there today. Chargers or the Ravens defense? I believe I have the Chargers ranked higher. Thoughts on Commanders and Bengals defense this week? As it currently stands, in terms of the rankings that aren't shown, Commanders are my number 14 defense. I don't even have the Bengals ranked. Even though the Bengals have been like a 17, 18-point play the last 2 weeks, I don't trust that they'll be able to accomplish that level of production against Bo Nix. Peace Dog says, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Peace Dog. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and your family as well. Vex says, Kyler Murray or Geno Smith. I prefer Kyler there. RR says, are you concerned about the Bucs defense against the Panthers? Correct. I don't want to play the Bucs defense. The last outing against the Carolina Panthers, we definitely saw, sending it to overtime wasn't by accident. The Carolina Panthers have been fantastic over the course of the last month of the season, so I'd assume that they're going to put together another great game there. Dave Canales, the head coach, the former offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the current head coach of the Panthers, should have himself another great game plan against that defense. Carbon says, bumping my super chat. Carbon, I thought I answered your question earlier. Did I miss it? I'm pretty sure I answered it. We can go back and we can check that really quickly, and I'll reiterate my the answer that I gave earlier, because I remember saying Carbon with a K sends in a question. But yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll find it right now, and I'll answer it immediately. Give me a second here, Carbon. Dude, is this actually going to glitch like this? Wow. Yo, is my YouTube... I think my Google just broke. My Chrome is shattered. Okay, Carbon, let's see if I can find your question manually, because usually I use the F3 function. There it is. Okay, so Carbon said, Zay Flowers or Pickens? I prefer Zay Flowers. It says opponent has Russ. So then you said, should I keep the Zay and Lamar stack? In which I said yes. If you had another question after that and I didn't see it, just type it in the live chat right now, brother. Thank you. Alrighty, after that, we had John Koziar, who sent in a follow-up question. Did we take care of this? Okay, we took care of that. Christopher Slender sends in a question, says, Myers or Tracy Jr. in a half PPR 10-man league? Under the assumption that Tracy Jr. is active this week, I would play him. Otherwise, again, if he's going to deal with that ankle injury and miss, then you just play Myers, and the answer is made for you. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. DJ Moore or Pickens? I prefer to play DJ Moore. Thank you. Let's see here. We took care of that. They took care of that. Ken in the chat says half PPR. If Njoku plays, would you still play Okonkwo over him? Correct. I would. Yes. Carbon says I did. You did what? Oh, it's cabin. It's not. It's cabrin. It's not carbon. I'm dyslexic, bro. Sorry, brother. You did send another question. It says half. That's why, dude. I'm looking up the wrong name. It's cabrin. My dyslexia. Anyway, it says half PPR. Pick 2. Zay Flowers, Pickens, Jerome Ford. Yes, I would play both of the wide receivers there. So yes, play Pickens and Flowers. My apologies, cabrin. I sold the bag there. All right, guys. Hopefully you can get to, setting your lineup there. You're good to go. Randy Riggs says, pick 3 full PPR, McLaurin, Adams, Collins, BTJ. As of right now, BTJ, Adams, and Collins are my 3 highest ranked. Thank you. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. It's 10:01. The game between the Patriots. God, my brain is fried. The game between the Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs is about to kick off. I appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with wide receiver rankings and, of course, live streaming after tomorrow night's game. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the games. I'll be back later, but outside of that, that's where we're going to conclude. In regards to this live stream, we're cueing the music. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.